for myself, trying to prove my existence. I wouldn't listen to nobody else. But then time caught up with my plans. And when the day broke, it exposed me for the fool that I really am. But you said, let me lead you, let me take you by the hand, yeah. So I can feed you from a good and precious land. All my eyes have seen, you're all I need, you're all I need, yeah. So now I'm learning to walk in your steps, and through the valley of confusion I've been losing my apprehension with death. But you say, let me lead you, let me take you by the hand, so I can feed you from a good and precious land. Now I owe it all to you, giving my heart to you, freedom becoming true. Nobody else like you, do what you promised to, and I'm so grateful for your love. And all my eyes have seen the wonders of your mystery received. I've tasted what it means. Now nothing else is good enough for me. You're all I need, you're all I need, you're all I need, you're all I need. Oh, I need you. Yeah, I need you. Oh, I need you now. Now I owe it all to you, giving my heart to you, freedom becoming true. Nobody else like you, do what you promised to, and I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your love. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I need you in my life.
Okay, I have some. What's up, everybody? We are live on a Tuesday night, getting started kind of late here. Everybody's been running behind this evening, but we are live. And yeah, if you saw the title of the episode, you see what's going on. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. I got the fellas with me in the building. You are watching Young Lion TV.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere I look, they're hiding. Young lion.
Oh, okay. You be cutting that off real short on me. Okay. We back. We here.
She don't want to hear the song.
She don't. No, we in the building. Young Lion TV.
Homework.
The podcast is live as we do it every Tuesday night. We are live in the building. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on what is titled "This Will Be Our Final Stream." And if you believe that, then you fell for the April Fool's joke that everybody would fall for. I mean, you could not believe that this would be our last stream if you know how we do over here. I mean, we've been doing this, dude. I looked the other day. Something just said me like look up when we dropped our first episode. It was March. I forget exactly what day. 2019. 6 years ago, we dropped our first episode in the office with bad lighting. The cameras weren't working properly. What else was going on?
People coming up and down the
people coming up down the stairs. The stream kept chopping in and out. Remember, we had to restart a couple times. We didn't have good switcher technology back then. Man, we were definitely ghetto rigged at the time.
But we did have a good video from the first episode.
We had a clip that one of our first big major viral clips, which only did across the platforms probably about 500,000 views, was the clip of talking about the Baby Burlesque series that they used to do in the 1930s with Shirley Temple. And apparently people were not aware of this, these weird shorts, like these weird, very overly sexualized shorts that they used to do before films with the little children.
Yeah.
So we talked about that on the very first episode of the podcast.
I mean, I knew about it because of you guys, but I didn't look at it as sinister.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do, this is why the new form of media is so important, because the new form of media can take old media and take things that a lot of people kind of gloss over and look over. And that's what it's meant to. It's subliminal. That's the better word. But the platform that you guys have and a lot of people have is they could take things and put it in context, because I think a lot of things go over people's heads.
That's what it is.
And I think
especially during those days.
It does. I mean, you really have to have a passion for being able to put things together and show people how things are leading you astray. Because, if there's a line for ice cream, you're going in for ice cream. But
James is going in for ice cream.
Me and Jay.
Yeah, him and Jay. That's the ice cream chair over there.
Well, we think we sit over here. He's quiet now.
I remember I went out with y'all one time and I didn't get a line for ice cream. And James was just offended.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you mean you don't want ice cream?
First of all, you had on the short shorts. You're hot. I'm telling you, you're hot there. I'm like, bro, you're hot. You got short shorts. These ice cream cool you down.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, take that analogy, right? Like ice cream. There's the I ain't gonna say the name, but the big name brands. When you read the ingredients, it's all
fillers.
It's filler, high fruit, flavors. Or you go to a creamery which actually makes ice cream.
Yeah.
And you immediately see the difference. You're like, all right, why is this one for a pint $8 and I could buy on sale 2 big quarts for $5? Well, it's the quality. And I think if you take that and you say, okay, what's modern media? It's generalized ice cream. It's great. It's a great deal. It's a great package. It's awesome. You're getting a lot for your money. Versus, I think the new media is people taking this, because we heard kids today have no attention span.
Yeah.
Kids today don't listen. Young people today don't listen. But the numbers show people are listening to way more podcasts than they are streaming music,
Yeah.
right? So that doesn't make sense. So do kids not have the attention span that they used to, or maybe the things that they're used to entertain, they don't entertain no more?
Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about you have to find your niche audience
Right.
nowadays. Before it was like you just want to be mass marketed to the most amount of people as possible, and now it's about finding the niche audience of people that want to consume your content.
Right.
And I think when we started the podcast, it was really just a labor of like, we know that there's a lot of stuff that people never talk about. We never
People
see
missed
it,
it.
and we want to talk about it.
Right.
And that came up normally in the conversation just because it's stuff that we talk about all the time. And researching how Hollywood started and what it really was and the agenda behind it, and this whole the idea of Hollywood, the Babylon, that Hollywood was at the time. And then you start realizing who these producers were and who were the people that were making these films and what their agenda was. And then you start saying, oh, okay, this was all done on purpose.
Right.
So you have to show it in that light.
Right.
The subliminal things, and us finding out now like what Disney actually has been inserting in films. We're going to talk about the Snow White film later. And, that's another clip that kind of went viral, was us exposing the weird messaging in Pinocchio, and these films that we watched as a kid.
I've heard that.
And there's these messages and scenes in there that you watch. And even I remember saying this, even as a kid, it doesn't feel like it really fits, and it's kind of weird. And you're just like, okay, well, that's part of the story. But then when you go back and you look at it again, you're like, oh, they were trying to say something here. They were trying to familiarize you with something, trying to indoctrinate you into something.
And to be fair, what you're saying is 100% true, but there's no way that you could do a breakdown on a controlled network.
Absolutely not.
That's what it is. I think people are curious, but you couldn't.
Yeah.
No one, that would not even make the light of day.
Absolutely not. Not. I mean, especially talking about Disney when they own half of media now.
And especially if you're trying to make a correlation of pedophilia.
You're right. To Hollywood.
No.
Yeah.
That ain't happening.
And it's crazy because all the stuff that we've talked about over the years, you watch how these stories have become more mainstream now. Because even when we brought them up back then, the people in the room with us were like, "What? This doesn't make any sense. Like, what are y'all talking about?" But it's become more mainstream now because I honestly think that testament to us doing this for 6 years and like I said, the joke about this being our last stream, it doesn't even matter if we're live streaming to 100,000 people like some of these big streamers are, or just the people that watch us every week and watch the replays throughout the week, which we appreciate all of you guys, of course. We love you guys. It's the fact that we're still speaking the truth into the atmosphere every week. Every week that we can. We've done it consistently for 6 years unless we just couldn't do it. We've spoke truth, honesty. We tried to change culture and spoke that into the atmosphere over the airwaves as opposed to lies. So we're a little part of combating the evil that.
And we use ourselves as example. I think we're all able to be introspective and say, hey, listen, this is not from a place of judgment or saying, look at what you guys are doing. We're saying, what initially we were saying was, hey, we were trapped by these things too.
Yeah.
And there's something here that if you're not careful and you're not, especially if you're not paying attention, it just seems like entertainment or it's just a party or it's just a this. You're not really paying attention to how you're socially being groomed to accept certain things.
Yeah.
And that's how we fall asleep.
Right.
You fall asleep because you don't even think. Because you're actually programmed not to think.
Yeah.
And our generation, I think, is one of those that we just grew up in that, not thinking and just thinking things are just, we were born into, how born into iniquity.
Yeah.
You're born, what is the difference between iniquity and sin? Well, you're born
into it, yeah.
You're born in the perversion,
yeah.
Right? And you just think that that's just the way it is.
I think the generation before us as well.
Yeah.
Honestly.
But I think our generation was like the one where it was just normal.
Yeah.
you know. And
But
then
it's crazy because our generation was the one that got to experience the awakening the most, I feel like, because we were at the perfect age when like YouTube came out
Yeah.
and when these
In
platforms
between.
came out.
We were between two worlds.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is like if we were in our teenage years when YouTube came out, we wouldn't have had the impact. We wouldn't have been researching Hollywood. We wouldn't have been
Yeah.
researching the origins of the country. We wouldn't have been researching all the things that like woke us up and changed our mentality. It just hit at the perfect time for us where we were at in our lives at those times in like our mid-20s,
Yeah.
where it was like, okay, you're kind of done with the childish things and you're searching for knowledge now. You're searching for more of a meaning. And YouTube was there right there for us to be like, wait, we've been lied to about everything and like just go down these rabbit holes and kind of start making more sense of everything and then being able to talk to each other about that and brush those ideas around and really figure out what's a lie, what's the truth. Okay, what can we kind of keep nurturing and figuring out, and what do we just cast aside,
Yeah.
But
And it like you see, I'm seeing how now it's affecting my kids.
absolutely.
How they're like they question things.
Yeah.
Where when things are a certain way, they'll ask me, "Well, Daddy, why do we do this? Why do they do that?" Instead of just like accepting it.
Yeah.
Right? They'll ask
Absolutely.
because they've already been kind of trained of like, don't just take what you see and think it's normal.
It's the opposite of
Now
how we
it's
were
like,
born.
You can't just think something it just makes sense. No, nothing just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's got to line up with truth.
Yeah.
But now they're aware of that, so they engage the world in that way. I notice that with my kids. Like now they come back to me when something don't make sense. Right, I don't tell them this is what it is. I tell them let's measure it.
Yeah.
Like let's measure this with the truth.
Yeah.
Right, go back. Well, what's the truth? So, like even for me, like I'm seeing okay. Now I'm able to bring this to them. So now the things that I grew up with and didn't know how to deal with, didn't know how to engage with,
Yeah.
that ends with me.
Right.
And then the next generation, now they can live in a different world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can live. And we talked about that earlier, like before we started the podcast, about how when you don't have order, right? You don't have structure in your house. And when there's dysfunction in your house, then you go out and engage the world and you don't know how to engage the world.
Yeah.
Right. Because if you don't have security in your house, then you're not going to have security in the world. Right. So, but when you do have security in your house, true security, right? Where you feel confidence, and that confidence comes from the truth, right? Then when you go out and engage the world, the things that are designed in the world to try to pull you down and destroy you, they don't affect you in the same way.
Right.
You know, you look at I was watching this thing today, listen to this thing online where it was psychologist speaking or therapist speaking, and they were talking about all these trigger words, you know, and it's just crazy the things that people take on as identities now.
Yeah.
You know, trauma bonding.
Yeah.
Like there's all these words, trauma bonding, triggers.
I'm
like,
so ready to retire all of that stuff. If I hear narcissist or gaslighting one more
all
time,
that.
Can't
I'm so
stand
tired
it.
of it. Like,
But that it's because people don't know how to engage the world. They think that that the world is supposed to bend to their desire and submit to the way they feel. They don't want to be they don't want to be uncomfortable.
yeah.
You know, but actually the struggle is what causes us. How do we engage the world? And it's going to be a struggle to engage the world, right?
Yeah.
So that's what actually causes us to become stronger, but we need something where we can get that confidence from, or that trust from, that truth from, so that we can go and engage it. And then we struggle and work it out. Because it's one thing when somebody says it to us, but it's another thing where you got to go and apply it in the world, right?
Yeah.
And especially I think Gen Z, the problem with a lot of parents is that they wanted to do everything for their kids and try to make their lives this false, peaceful, comfortable thing.
Well, I think we grew up feeling so neglected at times that we were like, we're going to do the opposite. A lot of the parents in our generation that have kids that are the parents of Gen Zers were like,
Yeah.
we're going to do the opposite. We're gonna make them so loved that they never have to experience any type of neglect, any type of hardship. Like, and it's just, you can't do that.
Just makes them weak.
Yeah.
Because now they can't deal with anything.
Right.
And they want to label everything as something that's attacking
Microaggression
them.
or something. Yeah.
It's that circle. What's the phrase that Tim Pool says all the time? Hard times make strong men.
Yeah.
Strong
Right.
men make good times. Good times make weak men.
Yep. And weak men make hard times.
Yeah, and another aspect of it too is we're taught in either our family or social circle, but mostly our family, depending on your family, not all of us, but we're taught to avoid conflict. Even conflict in ideology, we're taught don't argue.
Yeah.
You know, I hear parents say, "I hate when you guys argue. I hate when kids are fighting." And I think a lot of times it's so easy to yell at them and say, "Stop fighting!"
Yeah.
And so people get they naturally all of a sudden get the idea that fighting is or arguing is bad. But there's a way you can argue, and there's a way you can have a conversation without screaming and yelling. You could channel that as a parent and say, "Hey, what is the issue? Let's figure this out. Give your children a chance." But if you just walk in and you say, "Shut up, I don't want to hear this," you're programming them to realize that any kind of conflict is bad.
Yeah.
So just go along to get along. And I think this is how, like, what the words you guys are saying, the what was it?
Trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding.
Yeah.
I think what happened was because people are programmed to not want to be any resistance. Once those people started realizing that people are not going to push back on anything, they leaned into it. So what happens is no one says, "What does that mean? What is trauma bonding? What is mansplaining?"
Yeah.
You explain that to me. What is a woman, not a woman? We never forced it. We just went along with it like, all right, I guess.
Yeah, because we're told that they're an expert in these
But that's
things.
what I'm saying is that started when you're younger. When you don't have a parent who puts things in balance for you, and you don't have an elder especially, you just think it's your way. Or the opposite happens where you're like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm going to be quiet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was this. I was watching Andrew Schultz on PBD.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I watched it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there was a part where he was talking about the whole trans thing and like, I think it was trans, and the names. They
were talking about the congressperson that that whole situation that we showed last week where they
Addressed him by his birthday.
yeah, and it was the whole backlash because should we address people by the name they choose or whatever.
And he got into a part where he was talking about, well, if people understood, like I think if those people who are wanting the names and are trying to push this on the children, if they understood that how the parents care about their kids, and because they don't understand that, like it would help them to care. And it's like, yeah, but there's a right way and a wrong way to care, right? Because he was basically saying like everybody cares, like, but you gotta help them to care. Which I understand that there's truth to getting people to see where you're coming from and your perspective, and I think a lot of times we try to we just want to shut people down, and we don't want to have the conflict, right? But we also will just demonize people and put them in a "you're an idiot" type, and so we won't have a conversation because we'll just other them, right? As you're this, you're liberal, you're right.
That with politics.
You're a MAGA. You're a MAGA cult.
You support Elon, so you're
a bigot.
Nazi.
Yeah, you're a Nazi.
You're a fascist Christian, whatever.
Yeah.
But somebody's got to be willing to step over that line in love, right? And then as you do that, the right care wins out.
Yeah.
Because everybody looks like they, when everybody thinks they're a good parent until they see how it actually works. You know what I mean? Like people, because what are you measuring it by?
Yeah.
if you're just measuring it by what's around you and what you like, if you got a whole bunch of people that barely take care of their kids, you know, that, and you're the one that is always there around your kids, but everybody you know, they barely see their kids, you know, they leave them home alone. You're gonna be like, oh, they're horrible. I'm great. I'm a great parent, right? If you're, and this is why we get, oh yeah, he's a great dad. He gives me child support.
Yeah.
You know, he sees his son every other weekend.
Yeah, he takes care of his
that's
kids.
A great
that's
dad.
a great dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's
The standard.
That's
what they're
their
comparing
measure.
because
Yeah.
you got a bunch of people
Yeah.
around them in that society, I guess you could say, or culture
Yeah.
that most of them, their dads ain't there.
Yeah.
You know?
And the same thing could be said too with kids. I think a lot of parents say because their kids aren't giving them problems, they assume that's a good kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what they don't realize is that kid, a lot of times, those kids recoil into avoiding you.
Yeah.
So they know your trigger points and they're like, all right, mom's coming home at this time, dad's coming this time.
We did it.
So you develop a way to hide.
Yes.
And then in real life, when
Manipulate.
conflict comes, they run away.
You're doing
And you're like,
everything.
what happened to this good kid? So our idea, a lot of times parents' idea of good is basically
You
good,
don't bother me.
You don't bother me.
Yeah.
You don't bother me. But you've never taught them interpersonal
Right.
skills. You never taught them how to defend themselves verbally.
Yeah.
You never taught them how to be
Think
able
for
to
themselves.
hold your ground.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with this. Don't just concede. You know, all right, fine, we'll agree to disagree. No, I don't agree to disagree. I have a point and I can articulate this. If you can't, that's on you.
Yeah.
But I can. And I think what happens is parents don't realize that the same thing you did to shut your mom and your dad up from getting on you is what your kids are doing. But
Right.
you classify it as good because they're not screaming and yelling, they're not giving you any attitude.
Yeah.
And I think what happens is, as we contend, let's be honest here, all four of us. I don't, maybe I'm speaking for you guys, but I'll say this: I really learned conflict resolution when I went into my first job and started working.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that from my parents. I learned to be nice. I learned to. That's not nice.
Be respectful.
Be
yeah.
respectful.
Yeah.
But conflict resolution, when you have a screaming customer in front of your face, you have to resolve that because remember you learn a lot of the social skills we learn is actually forget school. School is a one dynamic on its own. I'm talking about you're getting paid to do something and you can't jump over the counter and beat people up.
Yeah.
You have to do this, and this is how you move up.
Yeah.
So a lot of our social skills, like think about how you guys got good at sales. You guys got good at sales by selling cell phones.
Right.
You guys good. So when the transition came to, hey, you guys got to go sell these CDs,
yeah.
that came to you because your dad didn't teach you sales tactic, your
Right.
mom didn't teach you sales tactic, but you picked up on something that was happening and you were like, whoa.
Well, we were selling stuff when we were kids.
Yeah, we've always had that in us for some reason.
But I think, to be honest with you, I think the sports aspect, like us playing sports, and
Yeah.
us,
That teaches conflict resolution.
That does
Big
too. That
Yeah.
does definitely.
you just got to have the
Definitely.
right coaches. You got to
Yes.
have the right people around you because you can have really bad coaches.
Because and you could go another way too. Because sports could teach you conflict resolution, or it could teach you to side with the loudmouths. There's a lot of dynamics happening.
absolutely.
It
Yeah.
teaches you conflict resolution, but it could teach you I want to be a part of the mean boys, the good boys, the bad girls. It's a lot of things
Because
happening.
you got to have, like he said, you got to have the right leaders
Yeah.
ahead of you in order for it to really work out the way it's supposed to.
right, right.
Yeah, I think but even back to what you were saying about the kids, like when your kids are just a nuisance to you,
Exactly.
and like when you hear them arguing with each other, and you just want it to stop because you tired and you didn't work and you annoyed and you weren't trying to watch your show, you know what I mean? You're missing an opportunity there to direct them in the proper way.
Yeah.
To show them like, no, this is what are y'all arguing over? Okay, let's get to the bottom of this, and then figure out this is how you guys work this out. I'm like teaching them like arguing and fighting is not a good thing,
Right.
but it's happening for a reason. Let's get to the bottom of it and
Right.
figure out why you guys are arguing
sense.
over this.
Yeah. And me yelling at them,
Yeah.
it gives me peace in the moment, but it teaches them how to hide.
Just hide.
yeah.
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 I mean, the bottom line, like, you can go back to the Bible for this. Like, it's funny because it's my kids. I know that when they come to me, Daddy, this one's doing this. Daddy, this one, they're just trying to manipulate me, right? So I was
They're trying to manipulate you to take their side to get the
Yeah.
other one in trouble.
right.
Yeah.
And if I do that, which if I'm just like, if it's usually Jakey, Daddy, Jakey's doing this. All right, Jakey, what's going on? If
So
I'm just
is-
like Jakey, stop doing that to your sister. Like
Is he like the antagonist of the bunch?
he likes to mess with both of them.
Yeah.
Right. But he's not always. It's not always him.
Right.
Right. So I never go at it like mad at him or
Right.
anything. I'm always like, all right, tell me what happened.
Yeah.
Right. Sometimes I'm like this. All right. You guys need to figure it out.
Yeah.
If you're gonna play with each other, do you want to play with your brother?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to play with your brother or your sister? Yeah. All right. Well, then, in order to do that, you can't be selfish, because even you getting mad and coming to me, you want it your way, and you want it your way.
Right.
So I think a lot of times it's learned. Like why do we fight? Why do we argue? It's because we're selfish.
selfish. We wanna win.
Like it's that flesh in us,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's we're selfish.
Yeah.
It's that selfish ambition, right?
Yeah.
And that starts to pervert the way we see things. I was watching this thing about like Hollywood. We're talking about Hollywood, right? And how the fixers in Hollywood, right? And this is so interesting, like how they will try to twist stuff to get people out of something, so they
That's what public relations was born from.
PR, right?
Yeah.
So it can look like something else, right? To get the studios out of stuff, to get the actresses or
Yeah.
the celebrities out of stuff, to turn or twist something, right? It's all. And I was thinking about
Witchcraft.
this. I'm like, yo, that's what it
witchcraft,
is.
yeah.
It's all
Manipulation.
lies. And you think about it. When you lie, all you're doing is you're being selfish, and you're trying to portray something so that you can stay in a place of safety,
Yeah.
and security and prosperity. But it's all built off of lies, right?
Manipulation.
And if the devil's the father of lies, you're in the house of the devil.
Yeah.
Like you're literally.
You know what's funny is we're talking about alternative media. We're talking about like the internet now, and even that giant is starting to be slain. Like I don't know if
Yeah. you've
you've seen this Blake Lively, Ryan Reynolds,
Yeah.
and that whole situation.
Yeah.
How
I haven't seen
they tried to do that,
Bro,
right?
it worked at first.
Yeah.
What?
But so Blake Lively is involved in this lawsuit for this film that she did with the producer and director of
Justin
the film.
Baldini or something.
Yeah, Justin Baldini, something like
Baldini,
that. So she apparently she started getting people were getting annoyed with her in this role that she was playing in the film. So she hired this PR company to come out and make it seem like that the director and the producer were trying to make her look bad because he was making a bad work environment and accused him of sexual assault and all these weird things. And
They were trying. What it looks like is that Blake Lively and
Ryan Reynolds
were basically trying to take control.
well, that
of
came
this
out
movie.
after the fact. But what I'm saying is what we knew from the public was she was getting a lot of people were not happy with her interviews and the way she would talk about things. She was starting to become annoying, right? People are like, oh, Blake Lively's becoming annoying. So she tried to turn it into this was a planned thing by the producer and the director to smear her, and basically she filed a lawsuit against him for sexual
assault,
harassment and all this other stuff. And but when it turns out he had a bunch of receipts, and the internet sleuths, the people regular TikTok people, started going through testimony from other people that worked on the film, text messages. They found all kind of evidence showing that she was lying, basically, and set this whole thing up. And that now he's countersuing her.
Yeah.
And
The dude got text messages.
they have a whole website with
Yeah.
all the text messages, showing that everything she claimed was a lie. And so now the public has completely turned on her, and
They used New York, not the New York Post, right? It was
yeah, she leaked the story to the New York Times.
New York Times. That's the one.
She leaked the story to the New York Times to get it out in the public. So it's a huge story, bro. Like, and the crazy thing is, like, again, like Jake was saying, in the past, using the PR the ways that she did, would have worked. But
Yeah,
if it wasn't for like the way the internet now,
Yeah.
and the way people like don't trust things now, don't trust the New York Times, don't trust these.
And clearly, she didn't watch Amber Heard, Johnny Depp.
It's the same type of situation.
Yeah.
Same
So
type
you see, we're in this transition where people are starting to take account of these things, take accountability.
Yeah.
Right? And not allow the narrative to just be taken and you just run with it.
Yeah.
You know, why do we run with narratives? You know, if you think about religion, a lot of times people run with these narratives in religion because they grew up in it. They desire but you have to test these things, right? You have to go through it. You have to, like, if you believe in something blindly, that's not good faith.
Right.
If we don't have evidence that Jesus died on the cross, then what are we putting our faith in?
Right.
'Cause somebody told us that?
Yep.
There's good evidence for it,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of times we've heard these things, you know, and that's why I tell my kids, I'm like, guys, you got to do the research.
Yeah.
You have to read. You got to look this stuff up. I'll tell you everything I know, but ultimately, God, He's the truth. I know some stuff, but I don't know everything.
Yeah.
You know, I might know more than you, but I don't know everything. Right? You know a little bit, and I just know a little bit more. That's what I said to them the other day, because you got to be responsible for yourself. I can't do it for you.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so much to understand out there, and you have to get and obtain the evidence to these things. Right. And that's what we're starting to see happening. That people are not just taking people's words for it, right? Because they trust them. Then you find out, wait, I trusted this person.
Yeah.
I trusted these people.
I also wanted to add, too, that's one of the reasons why, for us as men, Jamie always says this, fathers, husbands, friends, one of the reasons why we do address the failures of men is because of this. Because of the failures of men, it makes it easy to accuse men because we already know that men have this inclination to do evil things.
Right.
But it's when good men sit back and allow it to happen that she could lean into the narrative. Let's just say she's a diva. Let's just say she had a bad day. She can easily tap into sexual assault, them being mean to me. And because there have been men who've done this and other good men didn't speak up against them, it's easy to believe the narrative because quite a few women could relate to that. So they immediately tap into that. And it's when good men sit by and don't say, hey, listen, we're coming down against this nature.
Yeah.
And so she realizes, whoa, the public is ripe for this. And I'll just go with the old trope.
Yeah.
And I think that's
that's what the whole Me Too movement was, right? Even, we're finding out, and then Candace Owens is, funnily enough, did a whole series about this story, which she breaks down all the evidence to show how, what Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively basically wanted to steal this film from this guy and take control of it and take control of the intellectual property from the woman that wrote the book. It's a whole thing.
Right.
And he was she's best friends with Taylor Swift. She was using Taylor Swift as like a pawn in the whole thing. And now Taylor Swift is trying to distance herself from her. It's a whole chaotic thing. It shows you like the insides of how diabolical these Hollywood elites treat each other. Yep. But she also doing a series now on Harvey Weinstein. I don't know if you saw that. Like
Blake Lively?
No, Candace.
Candace.
Okay.
So Candace Owens got an exclusive interview with Harvey Weinstein from prison a while ago.
I didn't watch it, but I heard about it.
And turns out that like she's now saying that he seems to be innocent of a lot of these. Like when you go through the court documents and when you go through the evidence and the things that these people claimed and then their behaviors after the fact, a lot of this, that's why the one case got overturned already. And it looks like the other ones will be too, because it seems like there was a lot of sacrificial lambs at the time of the Me Too movement that were thrown under the bus, like Bill Cosby. Like, of course, these people engaged in, and she says this when she talks about the case, like, nothing about him makes him a good man. He was cheating on his wife. He was behaving, taking advantage of his power with women.
Sure.
But the accusation of him being a rapist, the accusation of him, like, sexually assaulting these women doesn't seem to be true. You know, it's there's a difference between women that, you know, are actively pursuing a guy, you know, and there's evidence to the case, wanting a relationship with him, wanting a role, you know.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not so much pursuing him, pursuing what he can offer them.
But using
Sure.
the relationship side of it to get that and like evidence of that.
Yeah.
You know.
But again, like you look at COVID, you look at a lot, even how the whole Trump thing is starting to turn around for a lot of people.
Yeah.
People are starting to like, oh, wait, maybe he's not what we thought he was.
Yeah.
Like, these are the things where we have to look at evidence, right?
Yeah.
And the media has programmed a lot of us to get caught up in our emotions. You know, we did a show years ago.
MTV show?
Back in 2008, right?
Yeah.
And if you look at the producers, what were they doing?
Trying to create drama. Yeah.
Narratives so that people will want to watch the show.
Yeah.
Right? And I get it, but the problem is it's not the truth.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You want to generate a narrative so that you can manipulate people.
Yeah.
That's a lie, you know? And if this is how Hollywood is working, well, you think they're not going to go further?
Yeah.
And further and further and further with this stuff? And that's where the witchcraft is.
But like James was saying, it still goes back to the men holding other men accountable for the fact that, like, when you are vulnerable to those tactics, you open the door for these things to happen. When you move, like when you are in a position of power and you realize that women will throw themselves at you for roles, and you start to take compromise and take advantage of those things, and start to, you know, you're opening the door for that to happen. You're creating the environment.
Well, I mean, it's not just that, because you could say the same thing in church.
Yeah, absolutely.
How many families or parents have given their kids to priests?
Yeah.
You know, oh, he's the priest. He's one of the best people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, just that's the way they think. Or how many people have trusted their daughters to the pastor?
Yeah.
You know, or their sons.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge problem. And Hollywood is a huge example of that too. Parents just sacrificing their children for fame and money, and, you know, giving them over to these producers, these agents, leaving not unsupervised, you know.
But why? But if you think about it in the church, why are we doing that? Because you put the pastor on a pedestal. You make him look like he's better than you. And he's not.
Right.
He's not. He's just as flawed as anybody else. Right? And if he doesn't have the ability to speak about his own sin, what he struggles in,
Yeah.
then there's a problem there. You know? And so then we build up these false idols, right? And you got to live up to them. And then you realize you can't.
Yeah.
And then you fall under the pressure, right? And you break. And then everybody points the finger.
Yep.
But you put them there. A lot of times we exalt these people, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just saying, it's like the same mentality, right?
No, you're absolutely
It's the
right.
same exact mentality where, who put these people at the head of these talent scouts in Hollywood, or who is exalting these people to be pastors?
Right.
Right? What are we looking at? How are we judging these things? And so he even goes to that. Like,
I want to play this clip because this goes right along the lines with this. We were talking about this a little bit earlier. And this has kind of gone viral. Let's get everybody's reaction and their opinion on this because it goes right into what you're saying. It's the clip of Marvin Sapp at the church.
Oh yeah.
And what he said and how he basically forced people to run their pockets. People were playing this up again. What was that movie back in the day where they robbed the church with Cat
Sunday.
Williams? Yeah, people were playing that up against this. Like that's what he was doing. Let's play this real quick.
And they understand the cost that is involved. There's 1,000 of you. I said close them doors. Ushers, close the doors. Close the doors. Close the doors. We all gonna leave together. Y'all ain't going no place but to the restaurant. There's 1,000 of you tonight, and those that are watching, it's 1,000 that's watching online. This is a small seed. If I get 1,000 online to give this, if I get 1,000 in the sanctuary to give this, that's $40,000 tonight. I'm challenging each of you all down here to give a $20 seed. I just think $20 is a lot of money. $20, believe it or not, when my late wife Melinda P. Sapp was alive, was a good date. I could take her to the movies, buy a box of popcorn, get 1 soda, 2 straws. I wasn't cheap, that's swag. I was looking in her eyes, she's looking in mine. Can't do that no more. Now everyone up here, we've all sold and seeded, but I need everyone standing up here with us, with me, to plant a seed of $100. Because again, it costs to sit up here. I got you.
Cost to sit up here.
Let's see. So put your 20 away, preachers. That 20 wasn't for you. And this is what I need you to do. If you're giving electronically or even if you're giving tangibly, I'm going to have y'all come to the altar and give it because I need to see 1,000 people moving. Bring them baskets. I want the baskets up here. I want to see the folk. Y'all start moving. Y'all can bring it right now. Come. Even if you're giving tangibly, just put your hand on take your phone and stick it on the bucket. Shh. Giving is worship. Giving is worship. Giving is worship. Giving is worship. This ain't the time to talk. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people need to give $20. 1,000 people online need to give $20. This is easy, saints. This is an easy miracle. We should be able to raise $40,000 tonight just from y'all giving.
Saints. Okay, so that's the clip. Went viral.
Dude,
A lot of people were mad.
Dude, Brody'd him. Brody'd all of them. Shut the door. I want you to come. Shame you if you don't don't go up there. You're getting shamed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It was the serving buttons.
Yeah, I mean the fact that the shutting the doors thing and like yelling at the ushers to shut the doors, and then like the whole like it costs more money to sit in the front, so you gotta pay $100. Like it just doesn't come. It comes off kind of weird.
So to give some context, this is not his church.
That's not his church. No,
He did this at another ministry. And to be honest, we've grown up in the church. You know, this is fairly common where pastors go to somebody else's church to do a fundraiser and they bring in a bigger name pastor. Usually it's someone with some esteem. And then that person is asking for a step up, a donation, a giving. God is moving in a mighty way, and they will be the one to deliver this message, and then they're going to challenge I've seen this so many times, you know, we're going to sow seeds, you know, so.
yeah, and a lot of times people don't understand is that these guest speakers are
They're paid.
a lot of times.
They're paid.
So
Yeah.
a lot of times you want to.
As a matter of fact, 90% of the times.
You want to pay the
75.
church back by having them
Right.
get a lot of donations that day because
Right.
you were there. So
Right.
I think he's trying to, feed into that a little bit. But the approach of it is what people had a problem with. I'm sure anyone who's been to church is used to these type of things, but
Right.
it was the approach. It was the shut the doors, yelling at the ushers. No, shut the doors. I said shut the doors. You know what I mean? And that whole thing, like, we're not leaving here until I get 1,000 people to give $20.
And this is a version of, I remember this when they would do a collection and it wasn't enough, and then they would do a second collection. I've seen this in churches.
Yeah.
Where they would do, we're gonna do the first offering.
Yeah.
And then they go back and they count it, and then
Dude.
they come back out.
I went to the church in Lawnside, and the collections thing passed around 4 times.
Right.
4 times.
Yeah. So he actually, I don't know if you saw the clip of him on Ricky Smiley.
I have it right here.
And he's explaining it, or at least attempting to
You want
explain
me to play it?
Go ahead.
Okay.
That's the narrative that has been shared, that I locked folks up in my church, that, I made them give $40,000 and I wouldn't allow them to leave until they gave it to me. And to be honest with you, that is absolutely false.
Yeah.
Number one, that offering was taken last year. This was a service that happened last August. Number two, it didn't happen at my local church. It actually happened at a national organization's international meeting where churches from all over the country, all over the world came together for the purpose of celebrating the Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. People took issue with me saying, shut the doors. Understand, I never said lock the doors.
Yeah.
I said shut the doors. Shutting doors mean that people still have the ability to go in and out. They've taken issue with my tone, and I can.
You like that explanation? You weren't technically locked in. You weren't.
It's a lot of PR. He was prepped.
honestly say, looking at the video, maybe I was a little more assertive than I should have been, and I can apologize for that. I could apologize for that. But 3 things I need to make sure that people understood. Number one, the $40,000, if it was $40,000 that was raised, was never given to me. That money was raised for the purpose of taking care of the budget for their conference, not Marvin Sapp.
Like I said, yeah, he was trying to raise money.
Yeah. 30 for him, 10 for you. We know you ain't gonna get 40.
What I think it has a lot more to do with what you were just saying. It's the fact that, like, why are people expecting him to be perfect? Because they've put him on this pedestal of this guy, this pastor, this religious leader that, like, when they see them doing something like that, like, people get all outraged. Like, to me, I thought it was funny. Like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I thought it was just kind of funny because it was like, really, bro, you gonna lock them in the church? Like I just thought it was kind of funny.
I mean, I get, like, it can be frustrating. Like, just being a coach.
Yeah.
Right? It can be frustrating dealing with people
Yeah, and their stubbornness.
who don't want to do basic stuff.
Yeah.
Because, I just asking parents to show their kids videos.
Yeah.
How many of y'all saw a video? 2 hands.
Yeah.
And like just stuff like that. Like it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
But I see a lot of pastors get frustrated, and then they act out of that emotion of frustration. But it's learning, how do you get past that?
Yeah.
You got to give those things to God. Like there's something deeper there, right?
Yep.
I think, and that's the issue. There's something deeper, because people should be giving, but you can't be forcing. If you're doing that, to me, you're in your own emotions
Yeah.
of things, and you expect people to react in a certain way.
Yeah.
But maybe you're not good. Maybe they don't even understand what's going on and why. Maybe it's not being made plain to
Yeah.
people.
I mean, there's a little bit of ego there where it's like, I'm here telling you, so y'all better do it. You know?
And I think there's another aspect of it too, where this is the first time in history that the public has the access to comment on things.
Yeah.
This is the first time we could actually directly have an impact on something in a positive or negative way, meaning I could directly see something and react to it.
Yeah.
So let's go back to politics, right? There's always been celebrity endorsements of politics.
Yeah.
This is the first time during this last election that we saw celebrities pretending. We know that they have before, but pretending to be one of us.
Yeah.
Right? Pretend to be one like you. I'm concerned about the things you're concerned about. This is why we're telling you, choose her. She's better for you. Even though those same people that are crying on stage are bragging via music videos and their social media platforms about how awesome their life is.
Yeah.
And now you're telling me my life is not that awesome. I'm actually a lot like you.
Yeah.
So here's the thing now about the church and the celebrity pastors thing. All his songs are very uplifting.
Yeah.
They're very
Never would have made it.
I'm big. I'm on my knees crying. So the reason what you're saying about worshiping, we've taken that same energy that we give to the celebrities and given it to the pastors and these celebrity gospel singers.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the first time I've actually hear him talk.
Mm-hmm.
I know him as a singer. I have never heard him. I had no idea he was in clergy in terms of he has his own church.
Yeah.
He breaks it down. I just assume because of the celebrity aspect that that's just all he is.
Mm-hmm.
So
now
I saw that. I didn't even know that was that dude.
I didn't even know that was him. I've never even heard him deliver a speech.
Mm-hmm.
I've only heard him and know of him through the thing. So I think what these men and women who are in that frame don't understand is this. Though they've become rich through gospel singing and through the ministry, they don't realize that people have access to their lives now.
Mm-hmm.
People can talk to them directly. People, and maybe not physically talk to them, but directly in terms of he felt that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's on there explaining this and bragging about all the money he is. So I think the veil, we'll talk about the veil of this idea of supremacy and lordship, that has been shattered.
Yeah.
And for years, the pastors, the clergy, the singers have, whether black or white, have all enjoyed this level of rare air celebrity.
Yeah.
They loved it.
And not only that, there were so many levels before you could even get to them to tell them what you had a problem with.
Yeah, because it
was never happening.
Right. So we saw another version of this.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, we saw this. Who brags about their jets and their Cessnas? Kenneth Copeland.
Yeah.
When Inside Edition cornered him, and he was like, and he was freaking out on her. It's the same thing.
It looked like he was possessed.
The tube full of demons. Remember that?
Tube full of demons. This is the first time that the public, especially the praying, the church public, are able to see these guys basically brag about their wealth and then demand that you pay more money.
Yeah. And not only that, the internet is forever. So like he said, this video is from almost a year ago. It's the fact that it resurfaced and went viral. Like you can't control that. You never know when something is going to get shared around. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, wait, I'm past this. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Now you have to address it. Right. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's trying to protect his money right
At
now.
first, he probably was like, I ain't get.
Yeah.
Then this thing took off. And Ricky, by the way, Ricky and him are both, what's Ricky, AKA?
No, Delta. Are they Kappas?
Omega.
One of them. I don't know.
One of them.
He's one of them, too.
One of them goofy things.
You got somebody, Jamie.
Yeah.
Nah, said, yo, what's this I hear? Y'all gotta stop streaming.
That was
and
April.
I text back, April Fools. And then he said, that's not even right. He said, Kyle is on his stream, watching your stream, telling people on his stream how y'all got him good.
Kyle, my boy. Yeah, man. Listen, bro. I had to do it. And because sometimes you'll get people to tune in just to see you explain why you're leaving or why it's over. You know what I mean? They want to see you be like, yeah, we failed, guys. No.
We failed.
But no, I mean, again, we got into all of that. We never even addressed the audience. We didn't do the intros.
Yeah, we just
started talking.
Just started talking.
But I appreciate everybody who's been following us and rocking with us for 6 years now. Never would have made it. Never would have made it without you.
and I never would have paid it.
No, but we, especially the Patreon supporters, man. We have people that have been paying our Patreon since year one. And shout out to Courtney in the chat. Mom is in there. Lisa K. Anderson. I see Uncle Denny in there commenting.
I've been looking on Facebook. You're not on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook right
All right,
now.
okay.
Yeah. Eric, shout out to Eric Croft, our bro.
Papa Jeff.
Papa Jeff. Is Papa Jeff on there? I didn't see him comment. Yeah.
He didn't comment, but he's on there.
Yeah. All of our supporters, Patreon members, we appreciate you guys. And listen, we're all on the different platforms: Rumble, YouTube, Twitch, X, Facebook, everywhere you're watching from. Make sure you guys share this video, hit the like button. We're just kind of like today. I didn't really want to. I'm so done with politics. Like I didn't want to go into a lot of that stuff. I just figured we
kind
would
of talked about.
Yeah,
that.
it's so toxic and crazy right now, just because of all the Doge stuff and all of the left just losing their minds. Like we had the Tesla protest out here in Cherry Hill last week. It was crazy.
They were everywhere. I saw the Mount Holly.
Yeah,
A few places.
all them
Yeah.
people
It's
being paid by
places.
being
Dave's,
paid by Soros.
Our boy Tesla's safe.
It's
still.
safe. I told him he better be careful.
you know that dude is ready.
Yeah, he said he was. He was like, "Yo, I wish somebody would try to mess with him."
Yeah, but back to the SAP thing.
Yeah.
Again, that's like people see a clip and I don't. You just said it. Like this first time you ever heard him talk, right? You can't just jump to conclusions. Like from that, I think it is kind of stupid that he would say that.
Yeah.
And it's weird.
I mean, the worst
know,
part was I didn't say lock the doors. I
Yeah.
said shut the doors.
Right.
Like, guys, come
But-
on, buddy.
But we gotta look at, like, I think people are so quick to just judge people.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and condemn people. I was watching this video about this guy who was saying how he left evangelical Christianity because he realized he was going around and trying to tell people how much better he was than everybody else, and he was trying to save people. And I'm like, okay, well then you just missed everything about the gospel.
Right.
Like, it's not you that saves people. And he's like, and he was just saying we need to coexist with everybody. And he's going into this like, you know, coexisting.
Coexist.
I had to deconstruct my.
That's new age-ness.
Yeah. So
I saw Young Don is one that changed his whole tune now. Now he denounced Christianity.
yeah.
Who's Young Don?
The cartoonist guy that was like, I sent y'all the video of him regretting his circumcision.
Oh yeah.
You
yeah.
remember-
Oh,
you see
that's
that?
the. It was the cartoon one.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the
yeah.
guy that does those cartoons, like he became a Christian just like last year, and like went on this straight
couple
up.
years.
Has been a couple years now,
They said 3.
but he went on this like straight path into like pretty much
Extreme.
extreme Christianity. Cult.
And
Like
then-
that's why he was saying he
Yeah.
met with people that told him like you have to get circumcised. Like he's from the
that's
islands.
That's a true story.
Yeah, he really got circumcised
I
his
thought he was just making fun of
in his
It's a horror
30s.
story to me.
And his wife was totally against it, but he did it anyway. So like that's how extreme he got sucked into like the Christian lifestyle, and now he's like deconstructing. Now he's like,
Wow.
you know, the Bible's fake, and
Yeah,
you know,
and that's my point. Like when you gotta do that, you're always looking to prove to yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what it's about. Like you look at the evidence, and you're never gonna have. Like it's a difference between having I need proof.
yeah,
Like rather than evidence, because a lot of times you're not gonna have the smoking gun and see the video of somebody doing something. You know what I mean? Like I'm talking about in court.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna have evidence,
right,
you know, and you base it upon the evidence,
right.
And I think everybody swears it. It's funny when you talk about God, people like I need 100%
Yeah.
proof.
I was just about to say that they don't say
Yeah.
that with anything
They don't
else.
say that with
Yeah.
anything else.
No,
you
no
know?
other belief system, even when it comes to the Big Bang Theory, when it comes to evolution, there's never 100% proof. It's
Right.
always just like, okay,
yeah,
well, this is
because-
the
Or
evidence.
you just going to go buy aspirin from the.
yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
No, because Christianity.
vaccines, scientists.
Yeah, it has rules.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
I mean, we don't have we don't have 100% proof every time we get in our car that we're not going to die.
Right.
Exactly.
That we're not going to get in an accident. That we're not going to get hurt. You know, like we don't have 100% proof. We do these things by faith, even though we don't realize it.
And what's offensive? Let's be honest. It's not even God. It's the idea that I can't do what I want.
Yeah.
That's really what it is.
Oh, selfishness. Back to what we were talking about before.
Yeah.
Yesterday we were walking to Rita's last night with the kids. Elise. Oh, matter of fact, Elise is doing production today because my mom is still in Florida. Elise, put yourself on the camera, please. There you go. Hi,
Look at that smile.
youngest producer, one of the youngest producers in podcast world.
Just so we have context, she always wanted to hang out with her daddy and her uncles.
Yeah,
And now
she finally gets to do it, and she's all about it. Like this is the story I'm getting into. So we were walking to Rita's, and her friend bumps into us on the way. And then we're walking back, and Elise likes to antagonize her friends with like the fact that she's more inquisitive. She asks me questions about stuff, doesn't blindly just believe stuff.
Yeah.
So she starts, the moon's out, and she starts being like, I wonder how they actually landed on the moon, Daddy. Like, and she's like asking it because her friend, she's like, how would they actually like get to the moon if they can't pass through the Van Allen? Like, she's like, and her friend's like, what are you talking about? But it's like, those are things that we
The Van Allen belt.
we just believe without all of the evidence or all of the proof. You know what I mean? There's a lot of things.
You about to get Papa Jeff commenting.
Listen,
I've
I
had
know
that conversation with him.
I know you've had that conversation with him, but listen, there's a lot of questions. There's a lot
lots
of
of
questions.
you believe they did it?
You gotta have
Yeah.
you gotta have a certain set amount of faith to believe that as well, because there's a lot of inconsistency there. You know, you gotta have, just like you have to have a lot of faith to believe that evolution is real. You gotta have a lot of faith to believe that
There's no God.
right, that
Yeah.
there's no God, that the Big Bang Theory is real. It's funny, I was watching you guys remember Anton Daniels? We showed his stuff on here before. He talked about Trump. He's the black dude with the glasses. And he was arguing with people on a panel last night about the existence of God. And a bunch of like the black people on there were saying they don't believe in God and there's no proof of God. And the Bible, they started going with these like theories that they've heard, like, oh, the Bible was made by Constantine, blah, blah, blah. And he just stopped all of them like, have any of y'all read the Bible? No, I mean, I read it when I was a kid. Have you? So then how are you even having an opinion on it? They're like, one girl goes like, the commandments are impossible to follow. He was like, what are the commandments in the New Testament? Give me the commandments in the New Testament. None of them could answer what they are. You know what I mean? One of them started going, thou shalt not lie. He's like, no, I said the New Testament. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's like, because you're saying things as if they're facts, but you're not even knowledgeable about it. So you're basing things off of faith yourself, off of what you heard from someone else.
Yeah. Right. And two, I think, man, your formative years from the time, let's say after 10, after 10 to like 20, the formative years when you're really developing your personality, a lot of times those years are the years you're going to spend getting yourself out of everything you were indoctrinated with, meaning your social circle, what you believe. So imagine being 15, 16 and seeing the moon landing on TV.
Yeah.
And the wonderment of that all.
What it meant.
You're not going to be like, this is not that, this is fake.
Right.
You're going to be caught up in that.
Right.
So it's like there's a lot of times when, think about how enthusiastic we were to see the MTV Movie Awards or whatever it is that happened in our time.
Yeah.
That was big,
You guys all know the story of War of the Worlds when they broadcast that on radio.
Yeah.
And back in like, what was that, the 1930s or something like that?
In the 1930s, they made
People
they
really
simulated a
believed-
real
yeah.
alien attack.
So he was reading War of the Worlds, but as if it was really happening over the radio. And people thought the world was ending.
Yeah.
Because, that's how powerful the media can be.
Sure.
So imagine if with visual and TV and video, how much more they could manipulate. And I think they did stuff like that back then to test how they could manipulate the public in those ways. You know what I mean?
I mean, listen, we've been told unequivocally that we are ascending in terms of our intellect, in terms of everything, our technology, all of that stuff. And the way evolution was presented is this: we're leaving a state of chaos into complexity. But when you look at Göbekli Tepe, you look at the pyramids in Cambodia. What was it called?
Angkor Wat.
Angkor Wat. You look at way more. We just saw
Even Egypt.
I'm saying we just saw Egypt.
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, well, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But we never saw Angkor Wat. We recently started seeing the pyramids. I just watched a whole thing on I think it was either Netflix or National Geographic, where they have this new thing called LiDAR.
Bro, I have that video right here where they
So-
just discovered.
What the Amazon was.
Oh, the Amazon.
But this is the
yeah.
Yucatan Peninsula, right?
Right.
And they showed it. This thing was highly developed. They can.
There were cities in those jungles.
There were cities.
Yeah.
Amazing. I mean,
And
it's covered.
They can't get. There is no technology to get them to where these cities are. You had to use LiDAR to uncover these cities.
Because it's overgrown.
I just had this conversation with Pop. He just called me 2 days ago.
Right.
He thinks is nonsense.
He thinks
LiDAR?
that the LiDAR is nonsense?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to believe, because I think let me see if I can pull it up. There was a article on New York.
I mean, they uncovered. They dug it up. They showed what it was, and they started unearthing it, and it was there.
They dug it up already.
He's talking about. You're talking about something different. He's talking about the Amazon.
Yeah. Okay.
They're saying the Amazon.
You're always having side conversations because you're seeing Jamie's screen.
Yeah.
So you're
No. He's talking about LiDAR. LiDAR is the
No, I
technology
know.
that's used.
No,
I
but what
know.
he's talking about is the LiDAR that they use to uncover the cities in the Amazon.
Oh yeah, that was like that was like years ago.
Yeah.
They found. Oh no!
What happened? Are we still live? We lost power.
What happened?
I don't know if we're. What happened? Please.
it looked like
The lights went out too.
Everything.
Power
just went out.
outage.
Yeah.
I think we're still live.
There was a little clickaroo.
Is the computer on still?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're still live.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live. We just lost the TV.
Yeah. So yeah, the what you were talking about, the LiDAR thing, they found like cities that were just overgrown with
Yeah.
jungle and
I mean, it was a complex civilization. I think what I'm saying is this: in an attempt to prove the theory of evolution, a lot of things were omitted from history.
yeah.
Because when you think about it, when you look at it, you see the evolutionary chart. You see the cells. You see the transitional
fishy,
species,
tadpole.
which they've never found. They have no transitional species that they could ever find. Even to this day, they have never found one. They have bones, but they've never found one alive transitioning in any way, shape, or form. But the other part of it is they've omitted a lot of the history to show specifically other societies not developing, not moving forward. It's almost like they're in a primitive state, and the European society being advanced.
Yeah.
And so they've suppressed a lot of information. They've suppressed a lot of like things where you saw the societies were complex. They had kingdoms, they had courts, they had rules. Aside from Timbuktu and places like that, but when you look back on it with the LiDAR, the one episode I was watching, they showed the civilization as being very developed,
Yeah.
which would go against the theory of evolution in terms of like these people were primitive, they're poor, they were almost like a version of Stone Age people.
Yeah.
That's how it was portrayed, and it's not true.
Yeah,
You know.
because they had like, from what I remember from it, it was like irrigational systems.
Yeah, they had
like
aqua systems.
Complex.
Machu Picchu is like that. It's a complex system. They understood certain things that we were told that there's no way they could, because they weren't mathematicians, they weren't scientists, they were more primitive hunter-gatherer, farmers, that kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And that would only serve the purpose to show that they were conquered because of their lack of development. You know what I mean? Which is what evolution was trying to to do anyway, because people forget this. We've talked about it before on here a long time ago. The original name of the book was Evolution, the fight for survival, and the preservation of the favored races. He was trying to attempt to answer why the Caucasian race has to rule over the lesser races. That's really, if you read the thing, that's what it is. You know what I mean? And so the whole theory of evolution, when you really start getting into it, it was steeped in eugenics and racism. That's what it was. They were going down to Australians and literally killing the indigenous people and bringing them back the bones and saying this is the missing link.
So do you think like historians or whoever the powers would leave stuff like that, even though they know that there's evidence on purpose, just
they're doing it today,
because that kind of, it would prove the Bible right? Because a lot of that stuff is like, they say it's what's the dude's name, Graham Hancock. He said it's pre-flood, so like Tower of Babel time and things like that. So you think that's that?
There were a lot of there's way too much complexity when you look at those structures that even today with technology we can't mimic it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying
some of it's impossible.
The technology they had was something different than what we have today.
It's impossible.
Some of it they can't
like
do.
the precision cutting, and
even they showed, like, even with the modern cranes that we have trying to lift some of those megalithic stones, it wouldn't work.
Yeah,
You wouldn't be
I
able
mean,
to
it's
do it.
already been proven that most of the quarrying of these stones happened miles and miles away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that's what we don't understand, is that there was a consummated, organized effort by these elites to change history and to rewrite how we're going to perceive it, because the industrial age was beginning and they needed to show it was indoctrination, but it was more to get people primed to be workers. So we got to get them. We talked about this before with the Rockefellers and the school system. This was planned a long time ago because they needed people to get out of the farming, rural, small town and get into the cities, and they needed higher education. They needed something, they called it that, but they needed indoctrination, not higher education. They needed that.
Well, even the idea of like men going to work in the modern day, women at home, like in the modern day, all of that was kind of given to us.
Yeah.
So even that thing has
And that
been-
concept's only about 100 years old.
Yeah.
right. It's been
What is happening? Is the computer on still?
Yeah.
what the heck?
What keeps doing that?
Plug right.
Oh, it's a plug.
Be careful with the computer. Don't turn the computer off.
I think we're still live though.
No, I don't think so. What happened?
This thing unplugged.
What unplugged?
This one.
That's the computer. We're still live?
Yeah, I think so.
How do I get out of the screen?
It's the Young Lion logo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it still says it's live. Are you guys seeing it?
I can't.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay.
Okay.
But it's frozen though.
It's saying
Oh, no, yeah, we're live. Eric says still live.
You can hear chatter.
Notice you connected a new device. What? Oh,
oh, that's just the TV.
yeah.
Technical difficulties.
What were we talking about?
LiDAR.
So we're talking about evolution and the idea that, we were supposed
Oh,
to have
these
came
ideas.
from a less technologically
Yeah.
advanced society, but now we're finding out. Even now, with you were talking about LiDAR, and then this new discovery,
I have it here too. Snake Mountain.
right?
There's a lot of places that he couldn't go. He just did a series on Netflix. It was called Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And he's not a university scholar. This is Graham Hancock I'm
Right.
talking about. He's not a Christian either, but he does a lot of research studying these mega structures that are thousands of years old, and
Yeah.
he kind of goes into, listen, what we've been told from an academic. Now he's coming from a secular world point of view,
Right.
but he's also a very inquisitive man. So he's saying, hey, listen, we were told there's two theories: the belief in God and then the evolutionary.
Yeah.
Those are the two. And he's saying, from the academic standpoint, he's not even addressing the belief in God, whether it's Judaism, Christian, Muslim. He's talking about academia.
Yeah.
He's basically saying, whenever we go to these places to question it, we're locked out.
They don't want you to do any.
Yeah.
They don't want you to do
Yeah.
anything. And he's like, all I'm doing is saying, hey, there is
How
structure
do we explain
here.
these things? Just like that whole underground city.
Yes.
That he.
The one in the
talks
Bahamas.
about. No, I'm talking about the one in like Turkey.
Oh,
where
yes,
they-
Göbekli Tepe.
Oh yeah, that.
No, I don't know if it's that one, but it's the one where they built those ventilation systems.
Oh, yes,
where-
yes, I did
You
see
know what I'm
that.
talking about? Where
Right.
it was literally an entire city that could fit like over 3,000
Yes, I
people
did
in
see
it
that, yeah.
underground, where they could live without any surface access at all.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you need that?
Right,
Why? How does that line up with
right.
what we know of? You know, because they were saying some people claim that they were doing that to avoid
Dinosaurs.
to avoid other like predators or something like that. But even the structure of it wasn't designed that way because like, or no, it was to avoid like the flood or something like that. But they had these ventilation systems built in there that like they would have got flooded out if
Oh,
if
yeah,
it had
Yeah, I
if
was
it
gonna
was
say
about
that.
that.
A water
Don't
seeks
make
its own
no
death,
sense.
so.
But yeah, a lot of this stuff is not lining up. And just recently, they used LiDAR. I don't know if you guys saw this story. Joe Rogan talked about it. Maybe this is what you were talking about with Pop.
yeah.
So there, I'll play it real quick because there's a story about how they use LiDAR to do some ground penetration underneath the Great Pyramids in Egypt. And they discovered some interesting stuff. So let's play it real quick.
So apparently, through the use of LiDAR, they have discovered that there are enormous structures underneath the Great Pyramid that go kilometers deep into the earth.
So this is pretty much breaking news because the new findings were announced on the 16th of March at a press conference held by the team who was studying the Great Pyramid of Giza, because what's been discovered is that there are huge structures coming down from the base of the pyramid deep into the bedrock. In fact, over 600 meters deep, which then connects to structures that extend up to 2 kilometers below the surface of the ground.
So apparently,
Yeah, and this was just in March that they discovered this. But you sent me another video, Jake, about it. Was this one go into more detail?
Giza. Don't worry,
more
I did
like
the research so
proof
you don't have to, and I'm
or
about to tell you the facts. Fact check. In 2022, Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga published an academic article. It explored a groundbreaking method for imaging the internal structures of the Great Pyramid using synthetic aperture radar, also called SAR. It revealed new, previously unknown structures inside of the pyramids. But this 2022 paper didn't actually reveal anything underneath the pyramids. That only came later, and this is causing a little bit of confusion. It is only on the first day of 2025 when these same researchers came forward and announced that they made a new discovery using the same techniques and that they were going to announce it at a press release on March 16th in Italy, Bologna.
Our research team has succeeded in identifying a vast underground city beneath the Giza Plateau.
Then the press conference finally happened on March 16th. We have a 4-hour live stream of that press conference that still needs to be released. That is before somebody leaked a part of the press conference. And this is where things get interesting. These researchers are claiming that they have found structures underneath all 3 of the pyramids in Giza. This is what these scientists are claiming to have discovered, if the leak is true, if the abstract is true. And that also doesn't mean that what they think they've discovered is true per se, but it is worth investigating. There are vertically aligned cylindrical structures that extend for hundreds of meters beneath the Giza Plateau. Here you can also see the famous image that is spreading around the internet. So this image is not fake, unless the leak is fake. But if this leak is real, then this truly is the abstract that has been provided to us from the unpublished paper, which still has to come out. But that isn't all. These researchers claim that they found more structures beneath those that spread 2 kilometers beneath the Earth's surface. So, fact or fiction? Fact. These scientists did publish an academic article in 2022 using their technology to scan pyramids. False. These discoveries did not come from that academic paper. Fact number 2. These scientists did in fact announce a brand new massive discovery that's going to change the way we see our history and the way the world works. They said they were going to announce this at a press conference that happened on March 16th. False. We don't know what that discovery is yet. All we have is a leak that potentially shows us the abstract of an article that's not even published yet. I'll keep you updated the moment the press release is out. For now, you're welcome to check out one of my videos where I climbed 100 feet below the pyramid of Khufu.
Okay, we don't care about all that. So, yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, we'll see what happens.
Yes. And that's what I was telling Pop. He's already dismissing it. I was like, we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
You know, they found something. There's something there.
Yeah. I mean,
but it's weird how Egypt is not, like, they're not, rumors or whatever, they're saying that they're not allowing people to go investigate.
No, they're not. They're
Because
not allowing them to do any excavation, you know. We can speculate that it's because of they don't want the narrative, but we don't know that for sure. It could be that they just don't want people. They don't want a bunch of scientists in there tearing up. That's
their
a huge money maker for them.
Yeah, that's
they don't.
my
they
theory.
don't. They also claim it for Egypt, as in, if it was for. They want it to be, it's the Egypt people that made this.
Right.
The Egyptians made this.
Right.
Yeah, and they say they built it in 20 years. That's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have any other videos for that one or no?
I think those are the only 2 you sent me, I think.
Okay.
I'm going to get my charge out.
Yeah. So, something that's interesting, like you just said, like, we can dismiss things, but, sometimes you got to be like, all right, cool. But need more evidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Let's wait and see.
And we can get caught up so who's back on the scene in this whole thing? Billy
Carson.
Billy Carson,
yeah.
right?
Yo, yeah, I started seeing his videos more and more.
Yeah, because he's been toting this ancient alien type stuff. So, and this kind of can fit in his narrative, right?
Yeah.
So it's always about the narrative. What narrative are you spinning, right? And a lot of times we don't even realize it. Like, we honor what we desire to be true.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where our idolatry is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where we hold our idols in our hearts. And sometimes we don't even realize we have that. So those are the things that need to be destroyed, right? That's why if we honor our parents more than we honor God, we actually dishonor our parents, right?
Right.
You can't really honor them. So honor and idolatry are connected in that way, because you're going to honor the things that you desire, because that's connected to, like, who's sitting on the throne of your heart, right? In terms of what do you desire, your will, and we see these things play out when stuff like this comes out, right? And it's fear a lot of times. Like, people are afraid of the truth.
They're afraid of something new.
Because it doesn't align with the way they saw the world, right? It doesn't align with their image of the world. It's not even it's in here, right? And it's in here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what needs to be broken. So, and that's why I even brought up the thing with the guy who said he deconstructed. But the funny thing was, everything he said and why he deconstructed wasn't even biblically sound, right? It was actually just an image that anybody could do, right? But it wasn't the image of Christ. Like, there's culture in church, right? We just saw Marvin Sapp. He's doing all these, like, he cracked me up when he did, like, lock the doors, and he did this thing, like, where he went to the side. You know how many pastors do that? I don't know if y'all noticed it. I noticed it.
I
like, so
don't notice. I want to watch it
What
again.
was it?
He was like, lock the doors. Like, he did this thing where he holds the side of his mouth. So many pastors do that.
Are you serious?
Yes. Go
Let me
back
pull
to
it
it.
back
What,
up.
his
And
hand? Not the mic?
His hand, like, goes on the side. So many pastors do this because they don't even realize the culture
They
that
just
they
learn. They start to
the
mimic each
imagery
other.
that they're in, right?
Yeah.
Watch, go back to it.
I'm trying.
I noticed
I'm
it
trying
because
to
I
go
see
back.
what these.
I noticed the Saints thing. They
Yeah,
always.
yeah, Saints.
But this is the imagery. So when you do those things, we don't even realize there's people who will honor that image, right? Just because
Yeah.
those little things that they do, right? And then they feel more comfortable. They feel more at home. And this is what we don't even realize what we've given up in our lives, you know?
Right.
So those things need to be destroyed. And that's why we have these little inconsistencies where we got to be like, wait a minute, maybe I just blindly just went along with something that I shouldn't have blindly went along with.
And we're in the age of movies and entertainment. So when someone says ancient aliens, it sounds good because it's applicable to everything we've seen.
Yeah.
But if you just, and the Bible says this, because we don't study, study show yourself approved.
Yeah.
If I lack of knowledge, people destroy if I lack of knowledge. But let's just look at that when you just said ancient aliens. When you hear that sounds, wow. It sounds mysterious. It sounds like, wow, like aliens from the movie. It sounds like almost like a movie, almost like, man,
Yeah.
I got to look into this.
Right.
But if you really look into it, it's not that simple. Those are the sons of God that
Right.
fell.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
And if we believe in Genesis 6, we got to know that there's a period there that we don't know how to make sense of.
We don't know how
You
to
what I
make
mean?
sense of.
And
It's
if
like
that period,
this much in
and
Genesis.
if that period exists that we don't know how to make sense of, there's probably a lot of things that happen that we don't know how to make sense of in this world. Like,
Yeah. And if you think about it like this, like I was talking to my wife about this yesterday. Think about every time, it's at the beginning, but every time
turn to find it.
I want to see it.
I'm
I
just
don't
curious
know what he's talking about.
because I love
All
the
right.
little isms. Like,
look at the beginning.
right
That
there. Okay.
That right there.
Okay.
You know how many black pastors do that?
That is so strange.
Yep.
That's
So
the
many.
black and mild
'Cause it's
hold
not-
right
I don't
there.
know. For me, I
It
know
looked like he hitting a vape.
because he said, listen, he says something. Watch. Put
Okay,
the
put the
volume
sound
on.
on.
He says something that is a little controversial, and he knows he said it, and then he does that.
There's 1,000
and that's
of you.
what
I said close them doors.
Look. See?
That is, I
told you.
didn't even pick up on that because, like, I don't pay attention to a lot of pastor culture, but like
I know there's a compilation.
if I'm listening to, I'm not really watching.
Make it.
There's certain things I don't know. Sometimes I see. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody has their own thing, but
Yeah.
certain things I'm like, I'll be like, why did they do that?
Yeah.
And then I'll just see it over and over
Yeah.
again.
Did I just mess up? This is gonna go viral.
That's strange.
But they
bro.
always do it when they say something that's like either like I'm hitting them and this might not go over well, but they need to hear it.
Yeah.
Like it's always like they always do that.
But
there.
we see that in everything, right? Like in hip hop culture, everyone
thought
starts
of that.
doing the same hand motions, the same little signals. In dance culture, it's like the moves start to become similar. Dress, everything. Like even in comedy, you start to see the
Certain
mannerisms.
isms,
The isms just start to line up. Everyone starts to kind of like they start to mimic each other. It's this weird thing that we do as humans.
Right. But that's the imagery is
Yeah.
that's what I'm talking about. It's the imagery that we feel comfortable with, right?
Right.
And then we start to trust people based off of that.
Right.
It's very you know what I'm saying?
familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's familiarity,
Yeah.
and then we start to trust it
Right.
because it's familiar to you. It reminds you of home, you know,
Yeah.
in a way.
Yeah.
But those are the things where we gotta realize, like, oh yeah, I do that. Oh yeah, I do.
Tricking us.
But he might not even know he
No, he
does
don't
it.
know.
You know.
You don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he probably does. There's a lot of things that we do that we don't realize we do because it just becomes a little tick that we pick up, mimicking things that make us feel more comfortable. You know, in kind of like sometimes you find yourself putting on an act. You know, and constantly, and I'll say this, like especially us as younger men, you know. As we grow and we mature and as we talk about these things, we're constantly trying to shed those things away and break ourselves of those things, because those are the things that you realize you're still controlled by. You're still kind of like under a spell of these things.
Yeah. Well, the things that we do outwardly are just they show what we're dealing with inwardly a lot of times.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the thing with it's funny. They kind of talk. The one video I have kind of talks about that with Snow White, like the whole mirror.
Yeah.
You know, the mirror shows you who's the fairest of them all. That's an outward thing, but it can't show you what's inward. Like, and it's funny because the Bible, the Word of God, is a mirror, right? But it's a mirror too. It shows you inwardly.
Inward,
It shows
yeah.
you your heart. You know what I mean? And that's what's so crazy to me. So we see these little things that we do outwardly, God's not so concerned with. He's more concerned with inwardly, and then it starts to affect us outwardly, you know? So we a lot of times we, you know, how the man looks at the outward appearance of things, right? 1 Samuel 16, but God looks at the heart. So we're looking at, oh man, they just said that. Oh man, they just did that. But God's more concerned with their heart. And we're judging the outward thing. Oh, they're addicted to porn. They got a drug problem, but that's an outward thing. You see it, you recognize it, but there's an inward thing going on. There's a root thing going on, and that's what God wants to deal with. He doesn't. The other stuff is, wow. Again,
Why is it doing that? What is going on?
she was just sitting there. I
I know
literally,
you're
Yeah,
not doing
yeah.
anything. I'm just wondering why. What's going on?
yeah, that's crazy.
Keep losing power.
And the computer didn't go off again.
Do you want me to play this this clip?
Which one?
The
PPD.
Snow White.
I was going to say this
Go ahead.
real quick. You know, we're talking about avoiding conflict and all this kind of thing, especially with men. And I think too, it's like I said, this goes back to what we were talking about. When you're younger, if you don't put yourself, and you guys were talking about sports, if you don't put yourself in those situations, you kind of get used to, that ain't my problem. I'm just gonna leave it alone. I was in Home Depot. I'm getting some lumber, and this guy, he starts freaking out on the associates. I don't know if he is in the right or he's in the wrong, but he's definitely going off on them, and they're trying to calm him down to let him know, you know, whatever. I don't know the particulars of it, but he decides that he's gonna start taking out his frustration on other people. So as he's there, he's in line, and he's like turning around because he's making a scene. So now he's challenging the other people, and he's like, "What you looking at? What you gonna do about it?" Now I watched something interesting happen. Right? There were men there, and some of these men were big guys, and they all looked away, they all looked around, they didn't want to get involved. But I stood there, and I'm like staring at him. Like, I'm just looking at him. And he made eye contact with me. He said nothing to me. He said something to everybody else, but I was locked in on him because he was so obnoxious. He was picking on, he's used to doing that. And I wasn't even doing it to intimidate him. I just was locked in on him as he was doing it. And he made eye contact, and I realized that's what it is. People are so used to these small victories He's probably been doing that for a long time
Yeah.
and getting away with it.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
That's what bullies do.
And he
But
never said anything to me. Out of everybody, he didn't say nothing to me. He said everything. What you looking at? What you gonna do? And he's doing that. And he looked at me.
Probably because you look like Brian Dawkins.
And he didn't say nothing to me.
Wow.
But I'm not saying that I'm intimidating. I'm just saying that a lot of times we're so programmed to like not get involved. We're just like don't want to do anything. That people are just like what I'm saying is the bad guys anticipate no involvement.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They anticipate that. They anticipate I ain't gonna do nothing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I think that's what it is. And now that doesn't mean you go around staring at people or trying to intimidate them, but you have to get involved. You have to. This is your society too. This is what we're doing here with the podcast. Is we're challenging ideas. You can't just sit back. Jake talks about coaching all the time. If you could either be a coach, I'd be like, well, whatever. It is what I'm just going to coach my kids.
Right. As long as my kids are good. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But if you have a mindset like that, you never think about the kids that are there that you have an opportunity to affect. Maybe the very kids that would affect your kids in some way or shape or form. Instead of looking at that as this is not my issue.
Yeah.
And this is why this stuff got so out of control politically, culturally, racially, socially, male-female dynamic, because a lot of people were just, that ain't my problem.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, somebody like that, though, the reason why he's doing that is because he feels the shame, but he wants to move past the shame so he doesn't have to deal with the shame.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we outburst. Like, people who deal with trauma, they have to move past that. So that's why people get loud.
Mm-hmm.
Most times people get loud because they have to move past their trauma and come to a place of false victory.
Right.
And he felt they did something wrong. And who knows? Maybe he asked nicely. I don't know. But I just know he was going off on everybody. And because he assumed everybody was judging him, he was ready to kill everybody.
Yeah. And if you, like, because I've been in a few, like, really confrontational things, especially recently. And I realized, like, if you engage and speak the truth, like, if you say the thing that actually makes sense, and you say it not in like a not in like an attacking way, but just in a like, dude, like this is what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of times, especially men, they'll be like, you see it change in their eyes. You know, you see them come down from that like where they have to prove themselves type thing.
Right.
You know, and that's what is needed. I just had an issue. I think I told you about this where this lady almost hit an old man going into a store, and then she almost hits a little girl, and the guy pulls her out the way and like, you know, hits the car like, what is wrong with you, right? And then her son gets out of the driver's. He was probably like in his 30 something. He gets out of the passenger seat and he like runs at the guy, like ready to swing. And I immediately just went over. I don't know. It's just like one of those. I just went over there like, yo, she just almost hit him. He had to pull her daughter. I just told him like, dude, why are you getting so upset? And then he kind of like, you know, backed down and went away. But he was really going to try to fight this guy. He's got his daughter in his hands, you know, and the guy didn't want to fight. But
he was just reacting to the fact that he had to pretty much pull his daughter to save her.
Yeah. And obviously the lady, you know, she shouldn't be driving.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with that, but you have to, like you were saying, you have to, like if I just sit there and watched,
which a lot of people do. I used to do it too,
and it wasn't.
I used to do that too.
I don't know. For me, it was just like, all right, go over there. I got do something. I didn't even think about it, but maybe in the past I would have thought about, you know, I would have just been like looking, watching, you know what I mean? Like, but I think like there's certain times where you have to say stuff.
You have to, yeah.
Somebody's got to do it, you know, somebody. And when you come with the truth, a lot of people will. I saw that whole guy's face change.
Yeah.
You know, from
he was anticipating
so
no one getting involved.
And when we do that, like, you don't know what people have been through in their life and why they react the way they do, you know? So if you don't come at them, because I didn't come at him in like what the hell is wrong? You know, I just like, dude, what are you doing? Like, you can't be doing that. Did you just see what happened?
Yeah.
You know, and then you see things shift.
Right.
All right. You want to play this?
Yeah.
Well, what is this now? So PBD.
This is PBD podcast talking about Snow White. I think they have a clip of her, the girl who played Snow White. I can't remember.
Rachel Ziegler.
Yeah.
Rachel Ziegler.
Isn't Snow White supposed to be cuter than the
Moan getting
the
messy
witch?
over there. Come on.
Listen.
Is it?
Snow
That's the meme.
Snow White's supposed to be
me-
Snow White.
to
Let's
me,
start there.
Yeah. To
Let's
me,
start there.
that's the least of it.
Yeah.
So
No, I just see the funny memes. You know, Gal
But
Gadot plays the.
And she's jealous of her. Yeah.
but they go into one aspect of it, especially with the Rachel Ziegler.
Yeah.
But also he talks about like how much. I think they go into like the detail of how much it
Lord
costs.
Farquaad.
Yeah. I mean, they had to do a bunch of reshoots because of all the missteps along the way.
Yeah.
It's a crazy story. And when you look at the numbers and how bad it did in the box office, people were posting videos of going to the theater, watching it, and the theaters were empty. And
they're lying, bro.
Yeah.
I see commercials.
Yeah.
Oh, #1 movie
Yeah.
in the world.
well, it was #1, but nothing else was out. It got knocked off by Jason Statham the next week.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
It's like 1.7 on.
1.5. It's the worst IMDb score of all time. Yeah. People were posting. Yeah. All right. Let's play the clip and see what he's talking about.
I asked you the question about what communities families feel safe in, right? And we talked about the Judeo-Christian U.S. Everybody feels safe to be in an environment like this. You're going to be fine, right, to be in an environment like this. Why do you think the opposite is not true? Why do you think Christian families who are leaving their countries, they don't think about moving to Iran? Why do you think they don't think about moving
this is something
to
Sorry, that's from last week.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Take it down, Lise, please.
Yeah, that's from last
I
week.
swore you just sent me this.
No, I didn't just send you that.
I was like, how are they going to tie this in with Snow White?
Yeah.
Did I just send you that?
You did send me
sure?
that. Dude, I have it right here.
No.
Today at 7:47
Wait, what?
p.m.
Oh, I sent you the No, dude, because he's wearing something different there. Look. He's wearing gray. He's wearing tan blazer.
So where did I get this from?
You got that from I sent you that last week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have it here. I think I still had that loaded up from last week.
imagine you
Okay. All right, ready, Lise.
invested into her being the face of the movie, and she's the main character, and she's trying to promote the movie. Would this make you want to go watch the movie when she's starring in it and she's the main character? Go ahead, Rob. Play the clip.
And to everyone who hates when I win, the winged victory came to the Louvre in pieces, and people still line up to see her. And I can only hope that despite my flaws, and despite my cracks and my breaks, and there are many of them,
She's a good actress.
that at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to see.
Wrong.
So obnoxious and
But
unlikable.
I'm just like they should have led that up with all of the clips that she made bashing the franchise of Snow White before that. Like she literally said,
I think they.
oh, okay, all right.
That's because if you remember, this movie was delayed, and then at one point they took because they couldn't have dwarves. Do you guys remember?
Yeah,
that?
because Peter Dinklage and all them were talking crap.
So originally they
There's a
took
picture of what the dwarves were supposed to look like.
I can find it, but it was an array. It was the DEI
The DEI dwarves.
Yep, but they
He
actually
messing
ended
up
up
his
that was
own
too
people.
controversial. They had to reshoot.
That's because he's rich already.
Yeah.
He got his Game of Thrones
Game
money.
of Thrones made bad money.
He said that the fact he made a tweet about how making a movie about little people living in caves is archaic or something like that. So then Disney panicked because he's like the most famous, little guy in the world. Yeah. So Disney panicked and said,
Morristown, New Jersey, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
Is he?
Yeah. Wow. And so they said we're gonna eliminate the dwarves altogether. and we're gonna turn it into
We're gonna make them gay.
the seven. The seven.
They probably
magical creatures. There was a Mexican one, I believe.
That's what I'm upset
They were
about.
just regular size.
Yeah.
There was Asian.
No, first they did
the
The
people.
magical creatures.
no.
We already
No,
know there's no
they
such thing
did
as
the
regular
bandits.
size Asians.
They did the bandits. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Then they
magical
went back to the
creatures are now.
dwarves.
Right. But then they went back to the dwarves. The dwarves are CGI now. Magical creatures were before that.
I'm confused.
No, I thought that they were magical creatures. They're not called dwarves because it's offensive.
But they are dwarves. They just changed the name.
So they're not dwarves.
Right. They still look like
'Cause
dwarves.
first they
What are we
changed-
offended about?
No, first they
forgot.
changed it to the bandits.
The bandits, right? And it was just like regular people.
yeah.
Yeah.
This would be
There
a
was
great
black.
skit.
There was I think
This
an
would be a
Asian.
great skit where they're making a movie.
See, it's
and
hard to explain. That's how
5 months of
confusing.
deciding what's offensive and not offensive is
Yeah.
lost.
Right. let's look it up. Let's not speculate. So the seven bandits, you say, right?
Oh, we call them bandits now. I'm offended. The seven bandits.
Yes.
I think they showed it. But
See, James, you weren't wrong. There's a black one.
There's a black one?
There's a black one. A Mexican.
hold up.
There's
There's
two.
no
There's
Asian.
There's a woman. But wait, there's a dwarf.
No,
is
they
this
see-
real? Is this
Nah,
the real
this is
one?
this is fake because I saw it. The
No,
clip.
no. They
No.
changed. This is what it ended up as.
no, but they still had the bandits.
they still kept the bandits in because they already
Yes,
shot that footage.
Yeah,
But
Wait,
people,
they're not dwarves though. They're big as heck.
they're gnomes. Oh, did I offend somebody?
They are dwarves, dude.
Why are you tall as heck?
He's
Why
probably
they-
standing on something, dude.
This
He's
looks,
standing on something.
Oh no.
Yeah, but yeah. So this was this was the bandits. So it's a merry group of bandits. But this played so bad when the footage of this came out, people were so pissed off that then they had to go back to the drawing board and do dwarves again.
Yeah, because she's in the traditional outfit.
Yes.
It'd be one thing if they did a total. You can't have vestiges of the old existing and then try to splice in something new.
How about you just don't do Snow White? Do a whole nother movie.
Yeah, I'm tired of all of this.
All
I'm
right,
tired
well,
of
let's
all
just
the
get through
remakes.
this and we could like.
But what I'm saying
No,
is,
if you're gonna do Snow
do-
White, do Snow White.
If you don't want to do all the things of Snow White, then don't do Snow White at all.
Come on, man. You're trying to talk sense to something that is totally
Why
nonsensical.
make sense when you can make sense? Come on, man.
All right, let's keep playing this clip.
The film and use CGI dwarves instead of actual
And then
dwarves.
Those dwarves were never used.
No, then they upset the dwarves that weren't used in the film because the dwarves were upset that it was going to hurt their acting career that they got pulled out of the movie.
That's so you cannot make.
Rob, I just
Snow
sent
White
you
and
the
the Seven
picture.
Dwarfs
Watch-
didn't have
watch.
dwarves.
Let's see the dwarf's picture
my
first.
God. There
So
you
those
go.
guys didn't make it.
That guy's 6'2".
So what did they replace these guys
He's
with?
definitely
Sleepy,
non-binary.
That's drunky, that's cokehead.
But what did they
that's
replace it
Tully,
with,
that's
Rob?
Blackie.
Jesus.
He said that's cocaine.
black.
Black.
Snow
He
White
said
CGI.
black.
I'm offended because there's
Yes.
no Asian.
Go to images.
These are the
Little
ones that-
guy.
You're
They
joking.
look like Santa's helpers and a fat Santa.
So
this
those
movie
were the
was the
CGI
That's
ones.
the
So
CGI, yeah.
again, that's what I'm saying. So they had the bandits, then they did CGI dwarves, but then the actual dwarves that were cast originally were mad because they lost their jobs to CGI. So then they had to shoot it with them again. So this is how much money they keep losing.
Did Rachel piss them off too?
Yes.
The dwarves?
Yeah.
Everybody gets it?
She pissed off the CGI dwarves. They were even mad.
Oh, Lord.
And somehow Trump supporters get pulled into all this.
Do they?
multiple times. This was supposed to come out in
Terrible
2024.
movie.
They just released it, and here she is. This is Rachel Zegler. This is her on the red carpet. This is in 2023
Okay, they
promoting
did
the
show
film
it.
and talking about
This
why
is
it's
what you
weird.
call promotion.
Promoting
Go
the
for it.
film.
Demoting.
This is Elisa's favorite clip right here, right?
Oh, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
So no prince or a different kind of prince?
Oh,
We have a
my-
different approach
Yo,
to
it's
what.
unbearable.
She literally just bashes the whole concept of the original film. So anyone who's a Snow White fan who wants to come is like, why do I want to see this girl who hates the movie?
Who don't look like Snow White?
Why do I want to see the movie if it's not what it was supposed to be?
Right.
Right.
So she did a
Do you
bunch
think
of
it's her idea or you think she was told to hype her up about the movie?
No, this was all her.
Oh, my God.
This was
But-
all her, dude.
But it wasn't her who changed the movie.
No. But it was her idea to bash the original film.
Yeah.
As like, because she does interviews where she says, "Oh, I only saw Snow White once. It scared me," and she like constantly just bashes
and
the
Snow White is not a really popular thing with little girls. They're just that's a long bygone era.
Well, it was
Right?
Disney's biggest movie. Like
Yeah, a long time ago, but
Yeah.
little girls aren't. They watching like Elsa.
Frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not now.
But before,
But
when we
shit,
were
but
kids,
that's
it was
a
still
classic-
pretty popular. Snow White was the original
That's
Elsa.
the
But what I'm
classic
saying, no,
princess.
No, I get it, but I'm saying young girls today aren't watching Snow White. We better watch that,
Right.
You know,
But that's what. So all the people that would have went to the theater to watch
been
this,
older, yes,
yeah.
yes.
So they're looking at this young chick talking crazy, like, what is wrong with
But
her?
again, like it's a connection because this is like if you grew up watching this, like our age, right?
Yeah.
Then you bring your kids, so
Yeah.
it's like that connection between.
And you want your kids to
Like Star
experience
Wars.
what you experienced.
Well, this is like how I feel when I go to watch Star Wars. I'm like, what is this crap?
You're trying to tell Star Wars is the
It's gonna be a
greatest. Yeah. All right, let's keep watching her
Taking in the moonlight.
bash this.
I'm sure a lot of people will assume it's a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude.
Oh, yeah.
It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their
Great
assumptions about
dude.
what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024.
God.
All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
What?
Yo,
So my
she is
agent would have
obnoxious,
punched me in the
Yeah,
face
bro.
Yeah.
if I was up there saying some stupid what an investment. Oh, like $300 million. It's snow. They should have just called it snow.
By the way,
slightly
that was
tanned.
that was the budget before promotion was 270.
Okay.
The promotion budget I just read was 230.
Yep.
So $500 million.
Correct.
Half
Yep.
a billion-
Approximately
$500 million
in total.
Oh my
in creating the film and then promoting the film. Yeah.
Review. Well, wait, 43% of Rotten Tomatoes. Roberto sent me this. 1.9 out of 10 on IMDb. And
Now it's at 1.5.
those, by the way, they weren't dwarves. They were called bandits. So the Snow White doesn't like the amount of like. If it ain't
I've never
broken,
seen him laugh like that.
don't fix
Break
it.
it.
Leave it the
Well,
fuck alone.
he-
Yeah,
it's played. This
if it
is
ain't broke, break it.
1.5
So the movie starts with
speed
Snow
or
White.
something?
You know, obviously they're
Yeah.
All right. So now what is this? This is
I can't remember his name, Jonathan Peugeot or something like that.
okay.
And he kind of breaks down the story. He goes into the story and kind of talks about why it doesn't click with people.
Okay.
and, you know.
Yeah.
there's an issue with the movie already because of course in the original fairy tale they say that Snow White is called Snow White because her skin was white as snow, you know, her hair was black as coal, you know, and her lips were red, and that was the imagery of Snow White. Now of course because they chose
Every Asian woman's dream.
Yep.
Plus, also, I don't know if you guys have been seeing the clips of people showing how like even Gal Gadot, she's not a good actress.
No, I don't think she's a great actress.
Yeah, I saw the clips.
Yeah, have you seen the compilations
turning
of her
around,
acting
like,
in different
yeah.
movies? They're like, yo.
I mean, but I've never thought she was. Like,
yeah. But people have made these compilations of like her delivering lines and how bad it is.
I haven't seen this.
So yeah, apparently she was just as bad in this.
Latina women, now they have a problem already right at the outset with the signifiers. But because of this kind of ideological infection, they couldn't make Snow White, even in her name, connected to the reason in the story of who she is. And this relationship between the idea of being fair and being pale and being beautiful, you know, those connections are some that you cannot make anymore because racism. Right at the outset with her name, we have a problem because now they're saying that the reason why she's named Snow White is because she was born during a snowstorm.
Yeah,
But
they
then
changed that.
What the
whole-
hell does that mean?
goodness.
That she survived a snowstorm, I guess. It's fields forced right at the outset. You know, there's a way in which things become a little confused because the entire movie is trying to play between the notion of fairness as beauty and the notion of fairness in the more political way, right? Which is the idea of being fair. And so the wordplay through the movie, that's what it is during the whole time. But the problem is that maybe they could have done it right. But in this case, sadly, they don't do it right. It doesn't land because it ends up being confused. And so they're going to have this problem in the story because, like I said, they're crossing the notion of beauty as fairness and then fairness in the sense of political fairness. And so you know right at the outset that you don't know how it is that they're going to play off the final part of the movie when the witch goes to Snow White with the apple and proposes, at least in the early Disney movie, proposes that this is a way that she could seduce the prince, right? You know, by using this apple and like the young men, they like apple pies. But in this movie, what they do is that they have the king and the queen bake apple pies for the people in the kingdom and like go out and like serve them these apple pies. And it's an image of their fairness and the fact that they're connected to the people. And so that's how they kind of try to bring it together for the question of the apple. And when the queen militarizes and starts to take everything from the people, then they become poor, they're struggling, they're starving, very much like in the Robin Hood type story. And Snow White is a slave. She's washing the castle, very much like in the original story. But then she meets her love interest, who is not a prince, who is a thief. And I think this is really where they're trying to get the Robin Hood imagery, kind of a little bit of the King David imagery of this character who is a thief and is trying to steal food from the castle. The queen catches him, and then she starts to condemn him, to put him in the dungeon. Snow White defends the boy. His name is Jonathan. Defends Jonathan. The queen ties him to the gate of the castle in order to let him die there. And then Snow White goes. Of course, she frees Jonathan.
She saves him.
And the queen sees that she's freeing Jonathan. And then she immediately goes to the magic mirror. And she asks the magic mirror a question that we've seen her already ask in the movie, which is, of course, magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And what is the answer? The answer is, there is one that's fairer than you, and it's Snow White. And you can see that all of a sudden now you have an issue, like you have a problem, because she's looking at herself in the mirror, and what she's asking is, obviously if you look at yourself in the mirror, you're asking who's the most beautiful. And so now the mirror is answering, the fairest is Snow White. But the reason why she's the fairest isn't because she's beautiful, it's because she's helping the poor, it's because she is trying.
She's fair as in communist. She's fair as in equality. Dude, is that really how they tried to spin it?
Yes.
They turned fair, F-A-I-R, into F-A-R-E.
Yes. Yes.
Destroyed the story.
Yo, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
trying to
crazy.
be a fair ruler.
They should at least made the evil witch not Gal Gadot.
Bro, there's so many things they should have at least done.
They should.
I might be able to get away with it a little bit.
I saw major news articles and publications saying that this movie was bad.
Wow.
Saying that it was like a theater kids version of a Disney classic. Saying
I think they ran out of ideas, man.
Dude, they could have just remade Snow White. It was supposed to be a live action version of Snow White.
Yeah.
They could have just did that.
All of them. I mean, all of the remakes to me suck.
Yeah, I didn't like the Lion Kings. Did you guys watch Mufasa?
I watched it. It was
I
terrible.
didn't see it. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, my kids watched it.
It was all right, but it was
It wasn't terrible.
Basically, Mufasa stole Scar's girl.
Yeah. So even in that,
Got red pill. Scar got red pilled.
But even in that, I guess it's like they tried to flip the narrative where it's like Scar was actually the good guy.
Yep.
Scar actually, Mufasa was actually
The one that-
somehow the oppressor.
Scar was the one with the royal blood.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Mufasa was the adopted.
Right, which would never happen in Animal Kingdom, but
Yeah. Mufasa would have got eaten.
but you'd been dead.
Yeah.
Bad.
Right.
But like you see, it's like the hairs are getting crossed, and they're going to get even more confused as the movie progresses. And so this, of course, prompts the queen to want to get rid of Snow White, just like in the original movie. She has the hunter go out, bring Snow White into the forest, abandoning her in the forest, telling her to run away. The queen is after you, all of that. So the first thing you need to notice is that, of course, for the ending of the movie to be able to happen in this Disney movie, for the prince to be able to wake her up when she's sleeping, now Snow White has to save the prince, because it can't play out in a politically correct movie unless she saves him. And so she'll save him like 3 times in the movie. She's already saved him at the beginning from the evil queen, and she is now going to continue to save him several times during the movie, so that it is overwhelmingly her that's saving him, and only slightly the prince that saves her at the end, which is already annoying. And through the whole movie, what's playing out is basically the idea that Snow White has to become the monarch. And that's really what the story is about. There's a trope in the movie where she's basically finds out that her father might be being held in another kingdom, and she's hoping that they can go save him, that the king can return. And, this thief, he has a band of thieves in the wood, and they say that they serve the real king, kind of like Robin Hood, and they're waiting for the king to return. But ultimately, what this is about is that, you shouldn't wait for the king to return. And you should become the monarch that you can be. And so there's a phrase in the sentence which keeps coming back, which is something like, it's no longer time to be led, but to lead. And that is what the movie is about. The usual trope of the female becoming the leader. It's there all through the story, and every single change that they make is about Snow White, becoming the leader in the kingdom, and making sure that she's always kind of reaching towards that masculine role and is feminized as little as possible. It goes through the entire.
They're gonna go broke.
Yeah.
I think they ran out of ideas, man.
our movie, all of these types of tropes where, in some ways the culmination of all of these images that we've seen in Disney now for decades at this point are kind of, you can feel like in this movie it's kind of crashing, but they're also trying to fix it. And so that's why it looks like two movies. And the hope is that the fact that it looks like two movies where they both seem to have reached the top of the kind of political, revolutionary, kind of political correct way of thinking, and the kind of woman replacing the male type of thinking, but also they realize of what a train wreck it is and are also trying to fix it. And so nothing fits and the pieces don't come together. The thing we can hope for is that in some ways it is the sign that this is over, right? And that we will see something a little more normal come in the future. But then the problem of the fairness then becomes more and more acute, which is Snow White is called the most fair because she's fair politically. But then when the queen, kills Snow White, then she goes to the mirror and she asks the mirror, who's the fairest of them all? And the mirror says that it's the queen again. But the queen is not fair. The queen has a horrible song, which she's saying, because I'm the fairest, then everything I do is fair. And so what? So she's saying something like it's power, right? Because I'm beautiful and because I have the power, I can decide what's right and wrong. But then why does the mirror recognize that? I don't even know. Like, why does the mirror think she's the fairest when the mirror will ultimately say that the reason why he said Snow White was the fairest is because in her heart, she's the fairest. But then why was the queen the fairest anyways? Like, it doesn't make any sense. They're completely confusing these layers. They don't understand how in the Snow White story, there is this sense that the beauty, the external beauty, can either be a manifestation of inner truth and inner beauty, or it can be a manifestation of outward beauty and inner poison. But the mirror only sees the outside. That's what a mirror is. And so the queen is making a mistake, in the original story by only judging what the mirror is telling her, But now in this, it's all muddled and it's all...
That's so much deeper. Like,
yeah,
the biggest mistake of the queen, and it just reminds me of Saw.
Yeah.
Like, the biggest mistake is that you're so focused on the outward appearance of things that you miss that the actual beauty is inward.
Right. Right.
And so now you're unfit to actually rule.
Yeah.
Right. Just like Saw.
I think in the other live action Snow White with Charlize Theron, like, even that element was kind of implemented. Like, she got her beauty because of the mirror. Like, but she was really just this nasty, ugly, like,
that's actually a better one too.
Witch lady,
Snow White and the Huntsman, right?
Yeah, Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh yeah.
Which, they made some changes to the plot, but it wasn't this. This is just crazy.
Well, this is what happens when you have an ideology that you have to be upholding to.
Yeah.
Right.
It's it's idolatry. Like, literally.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think it would have been this bad, like, publicly, if Rachel Zegler wasn't so obnoxious,
annoying. Yeah, it's still, people still would have
been
bashed
bad,
it.
just like every other remake that they have done, that live action remake.
It would have been that bad. It would have been. It just makes it worse. But I think it's too, like, the reason why even they got her is it just plays to how bad they are at even casting.
Yeah.
How bad they are at
Little Mermaid
everything in this movie.
Yeah.
Right? It just shows you they don't have no clue of what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing I will say, I will give her credit. Rachel Zegler.
She can sing.
She can sing. Yeah. And she's good. She's a good fit for the musical. I never watched West Side Story. I heard she did great in that. People praise her for her role that she played in that. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
Because what did she play? Maria, maybe, I guess. I'm assuming.
I saw it, but I don't even remember.
But she can sing. So I understand that fit. I don't see Gal Gadot singing good. How was that?
She doesn't. The Latina thing doesn't throw me because she's not like, what's that girl?
Afro Latina.
She's not Zoe Saldana or Rosario
But
Dawson.
it does kind of throw a little bit when you're saying when the
Snow White
the actual phrasing is her
is
skin was white as snow.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but she and I get it. That is true. But she doesn't. She's not like, oh my god, this is.
Yeah.
She's. Pretty
well, we know
fair.
in Trinidad she's considered white.
Oh, she's definitely white. No doubt about it.
In Trinidad, she would be white as snow.
Most of the Caribbean, she's white.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I will say.
But to Colombians, she's black.
I will say this, though. Fair is Fair.
Right.
Both of them are Fair.
Is it?
Yes.
What is
that
it?
kind
Paying-
of?
Oh, I'm thinking
paying
of
your
your
fare.
fare
Yeah.
is paying a fare.
Yes.
Right. My
And
bad.
the etymology does come from like what's beautiful. Or
Oh, that's
pleasant.
what you were sitting here looking up the whole time.
Yes,
I
see
was
how
wondering-
how confusing.
Because when you
yeah,
said
your
that,
shit is.
I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so the etymology does come from beauty.
Yeah.
Right? And isn't it interesting that we even lost that?
Wow.
But the reason why it started to change is because beauty or what's pleasant was connected to what is equitable. Right?
Yeah.
In terms of how, but see how beauty is in the eyes of the
beholder. Yeah.
Right. So the one who you have to be taught beauty, right? Or else you're going to look at the wrong things, right? You're going to see the wrong things. So again, it plays to this. You can go deep with this in terms of like you're trying to judge what's fair only based off of yourself,
Right.
and that's crazy. Like, who's your judge? Like, where do you get your measuring stick from? And this movie literally shows that. Like,
well, not this one.
Yeah.
No, it shows that in terms of you're trying to lift somebody up as a ruler who's unfit,
right?
Because just because she gave somebody some food,
yeah,
just because. Yeah, obviously this person over here can't do it, but
Right.
you can't either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you're unfit too. Because we don't even know how to judge what a good ruler is, right?
There's so many ways they can go. They could have gone with it if they wanted to update it, But
Yeah. They could have been
leave
clever.
it alone.
But they wanted to be
woke. I want to show what I was talking about. People were posting this. This clip of Gal Gadot acting in the movie.
Are you against me too? Are you? Yes or no?
All right, now watch this clip. This is the compilation I was talking about. Gal Gadot's worst line deliveries.
And enough champagne to fill the Nile. Kalel, no. Max Lord, you're putting yourself and everyone else in grave danger. I need you to give me the stone. What happened to it?
What did you say?
So exciting. Very interested to find the man who brought those.
Why should I help you?
Because we're asking you nicely. Just tell me what it costs to get her away from me. Name a price. I'll buy the whole damn boat if I have to. Who are you? The lasso of Hastia.
I never noticed how terrible she was.
It's because you was just looking at her.
But who?
Enough.
I said enough. As Amazons, this is our duty. You have no idea what kind of
She's the female Arnold.
It's the accent.
Yeah, it's the
That's-
accent.
that's
does
what- that's
the
what
accent
throws
does
it
make
off.
it a little bit worse. But yeah, I thought that was funny. So yeah,
and I think like it go when you look at Rachel Zegler. I think there was one clip where she said, "I'm a narcissist," right?
she did. Yeah, it was when she was on Kimmel talking about how she stands in front of the Snow White ride and everyone wants to take pictures of her, and he's like, "Why would you stand in front of the ride?" And she goes, "I'm a narcissist."
Yeah. But saying that, and you seen the way she acted, it speaks to this whole thing about like, what are we looking at?
Yeah.
What are we focusing on? Narcissist. You know that narcissists are literally focused on an image
that they've created
that
of
they've
themselves.
created,
Yeah.
and they're always trying to live up to,
Mm.
and they will try to fit everything around them to that image, and anything that contradicts that, they attack. Man, interesting. Like, so it's literally idolatry.
Hold on, I gotta address Amber. Our girl Amber is in YouTube right now. She said, "Hey guys, I'm late. Is this the last stream?" No, that was the April Fool's joke. I got a lot of people with that. That was our April Fool's joke for today. I just said this will be our last stream just to mess with everybody. We definitely are not going nowhere. So thank you for watching. Make sure you share the video. Go ahead, Jake.
No, so I was saying that narcissism is connected to idolatry, like literally, because you have to hold. It's kind of like because you're insecure, you have to hold an image, and you feel like if I live up to this thing that I'm holding, I will live up to this thing that I'm holding in front of me. And anybody that tries to get in the way of that and tell me otherwise, I'm going to attack.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to put down.
You know, there's another side to, I don't know if we're missing, but I just wanted to put this in there. She's young. She's 23. I just looked up her age.
Mm-hmm.
Not doubting that she probably has some of these thoughts herself, but she's the product of this time.
Mm-hmm.
At 23 years old, this is probably her dream to be an actress. If you go back and probably look at some of the stuff, she's probably an enthusiastic kid wanting to do this. But let's not forget this. A lot of times when they're pitching movies and they're pitching, especially with remakes, one of the things I don't know the title for these people, but like the producers, the executives, when they come in, they are taking essentially an old idea. You guys are familiar with this more than anything else. They bring you in and they're like, we're gonna update this thing and she doesn't need to be rescued. She's like a hero. She's a this. And it's like kind of you guys when you guys went on MTV. You guys wanted to showcase your harmonizing. You guys put a lot of time and training into this craft. MTV was a big break for you guys. Big break in terms of like this was gonna be your walkway into stardom.
Mm-hmm.
But when you got there, what happened? You guys, they wanted to who's the bad boy, who's the dancer, who's the womanizer, who's the pretty boy. They wanted to figure out so they want to make a show out of this thing.
Right.
They want to make an event out of this. Jamie, he's the asshole of the group. Simone is the womanizer of the group. Jake is the this of the group. Pete is that's what they're interested in. They don't care about your story. What I'm saying is, at what extent was this young girl put in a room and they're like, we're gonna remake this. And she's a hero. And you gotta step up and hyping her up. She believes this. She believes this. We're rewriting the story. And she goes along with it. It could be narcissism, but it could also be the people who hyped her up. They're not there in front of the camera to see her go through all of this.
Right. And,
I think it's one and the same.
Yeah. And
it could be fun, but I'm saying for a 23-year-old, they don't know.
For a 23-year-old, first of all, and I get what you're saying, but that's a lot of us trying to fill in gaps with assumption. You know what I mean? Because when you look at her history and when you look at people have brought up mad social media stuff where she's been this obnoxious.
Oh, no
You know what I'm
doubt
saying?
about it.
So for them to pitch that idea to her, you would still have to be of the mindset, well, I'm going to take that and run with it.
Oh, no, she is.
You know what I mean? So
she is. She says it. But I'm
Right.
saying it doesn't take, she thinks she's smarter than she is.
Right.
But I'm saying they could have very well used it against her to be like, I'm sure they didn't think it was going to backfire this much. She was like, I'm going to run with this. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, when you see that the backlash happens, right, and then she just continues to double.
Well, she shut up now.
No. But I'm saying for that's because the movie came out. But that clip of her talking about, and people are going to show up and line up for me. That was way after she was getting all the backlash. She was still doubling down.
She was talking about Trump. She was talking about Palestine.
Yeah, she was.
She ain't saying it now though.
She was talking about knowing that Gal Gadot is Israeli and was in the IDF. She's talking about free Palestine and all this stuff.
But I'm saying she knowing. I think she really. I think she's just like clueless. She just leaned into this caricature.
But I'm, of course, because in her mind, that's a righteous person.
Right.
That's a feminist. That's a girl boss.
Uh-huh.
But what I'm saying is they didn't they probably did pitch her the script as like, yeah, Snow White is going to be, a feminist and she's not going to need to be saved. But she was
took it around with it.
She was already
So her story is, from what I heard from somebody who's a fan of hers, she was in Broadway and she was like really, really good. And
She's a
Steven
theater,
Spielberg handpicked her to play, I think, the West Side Story movie or whatever like that. And, like somebody who comes up being around, celebrities and superstars, they start to become a certain way.
Yeah, they start to feel
And that's kind of
themselves.
what they do. This is what they're all doing. This woke
Yeah.
kind of like, I have an opinion. I guarantee if Gal Gadot said, "Hey, you know I'm Israel," she'd be like, "Oh my God, you are? I'm sorry." She wouldn't even. She probably wouldn't have nothing.
She knows that.
You know.
She knows that. Let me see. Who did she? Yeah, she did play Maria. So that's the main lead female role in West Side Story.
And she's 23, and this is like what she's
And
like
young
young enough
too.
where it's like she buys into all of this stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
She's of that generation too. She's
She wants to make it her own thing.
She's a Gen
Yeah.
Z woman
Yeah.
who is gonna believe all the girl boss nonsense. But the thing is, it takes for you to take that and run with it and accept it and not have the humility to realize you were wrong or say you were wrong or apologize or get out there and like try to fix it. Like she's never done that, you know. So
Well, she shut up now. I think she hasn't said anything.
Well, they removed her from all of the.
Yeah.
They took her off of all the promo stuff. They took her from the red carpets. They did like a
Yeah.
private screening in Spain somewhere. Like they stopped all the press stuff because it was getting out of control. Yeah. So, and people weren't every time like that Jimmy Kimmel clip. That's them trying to put her in front of the camera, but every time it was making it worse.
But again, so that's what I'm saying about the whole idolatry, narcissist type thing, where your imagery, your ideology becomes more important than anything else, and everything else you attack. So it doesn't like she's not thinking through it at all.
Yeah.
In terms of like, well, this is Snow White. This is something that a lot of
Yeah.
people love. She's not thinking in any of that.
There's
She's
no honor.
only-
There's no honor from the. You're playing a role that has. It's like people consider this a classic.
But
you know,
it doesn't for her. It's none of that. It's just
Yeah.
in the way.
Right.
It's in the way of what
She's trying
looking
to.
at.
She's trying to emphasize it's different, and she's
Yeah.
trying to rewrite it herself.
Well, she's trying to show that, you know, back then, evil white men were writing were writing stories
She
that
said
were
the dude. She said the prince stalked Snow White. Like,
yeah.
think about it. You know what I mean?
The
Like,
prince was a stalker. You know, it was written in the 1930s and very evidently so. You know what I mean?
But again, this
so annoying.
But this is why there's an issue with men and women now.
Yeah.
Right? Where people are having issues even having conversations because somebody like her isn't going to be able to engage with a man where she can actually listen to
Yeah,
them.
nope.
She's going to be thinking she has the moral high ground like already. Like,
Yeah.
you can't even listen to somebody in terms of, well, let me hear you out. Let me hear your side.
Well, they created a term to stop that to make women also feel offended if a man explains anything to them. It's called mansplaining.
Mansplaining.
So now girls that grew up hearing mansplaining are already in attack mode if a man tries to explain anything. Because you have this phrase that you've been put under a spell by, indoctrinated into.
But something that's great about this country is that people do, like when people humble themselves,
Yeah.
even if it's fake, people will turn around and forgive you.
Mhm.
You know, and I think I like that about this country. Even
Not
though
on the
we-
left. There's
even-
no forgiveness on the left.
Yeah, but I'm talking
A lot of
about
humbling, though.
Yeah, a lot of humbling.
But the left is not as big as the majority of the country.
That's true.
Right? But I think we need to get better at discerning who's doing it for the right reasons. What happened?
No, I was just telling Jamie it's getting late.
Yeah, I know.
DC look like she getting tired.
Yeah, we need to wrap.
Yeah. So just leave it at that. I think that I just want to say about her because I don't want to bash her. We're bashing what she is portraying.
That's why I say
what
she's
she is holding
23.
on
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
She's young.
she can change, right?
Right.
She can change her whole perspective. She can change the direction of her life where it's going. So I don't want to bash
We're
her.
bashing the ideology that created her.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know.
What she's holding on to
Yeah.
very pridefully, right?
Mhm.
I
And
hope
it's-
this humbles her.
and you know what's interesting about this whole thing? God says that he delights in a broken spirit, a contrite heart, right? Humble.
Yeah.
So it's the total opposite of what we see going on here, right? That's what's fair. That's what's pleasant to God. That's what's beautiful to God when we humble ourselves before God.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the truth. And it's funny, like, even if you don't know God, you still got to deal with the wrath of God as you go through you trying to go through your own wrath. Like, you get what you give out, you know? And that's how God teaches us humility.
Yep.
So there's a lesson here, you know, whether you know
For
God
all
or
of
not.
us. Yeah. All right. Let's wrap it up there, guys. Appreciate everybody for watching. I got to give a shout out to a couple people that were chiming in. Our girl Gina was in there, said, love you guys. Shout out to Emma, who came in and said, greetings, guys. Amber said that was a good one. You got me. Yeah, we got a few people. They thought they was on here ready to see the farewell speech. Not happening. We still gonna be rocking Young Lions as long as we can, as God willing. So appreciate everybody. Again, don't forget, if you want to support what we do, we didn't mention it ahead of the show because we got right into it. Going over to our Patreon, patreon.com/youngliontv. Sign up to become a member for as little as $3 a month. You can hit one of the different tiers of your level of lionness and sign up and support what we do over there to help us continue to grow this thing and build this community of the Young Lions. We love you guys. Our website is jatan.com for the merch and music. A bunch of new merch coming soon. We got some new designs we're working on, trying to finalize. And show coming up. We just booked, we're opening up for, what's the artist name? We'll announce it soon, but we're opening up for an artist.
Stephen Stanley.
Stephen Stanley opening up
425.
Yeah, on April 25th at the City Winery. Again, we'll be over there opening up for Stephen Stanley. And yeah, make sure you guys share this video, like it, and drop a comment. We'll see everybody next week, man. Peace.
Young Lion, go live, yeah. Young Lion, you rich, yeah. This kingdom has room, yeah. Go and fight people in, ooh.